Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Roscoe.
Present.
Councilmember Bracken.
Present.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Here.
Councilmember London.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sardinius.
Here.
Councilmember Stoner. Here. And Councilmember Bosco is not with us this evening. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item, Mr. Mayor, is brief comments by council.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. I need a new T-shirt.
Winn-Dixie, Yacht Club, Beach
Been
Club.
some productive meetings of late. The Zork was convened last night. It's a contributory and collaborative group. I think with the right judgment, skill sets, and knowledge, it's going to be good. Thank you for stopping by.
Excellent.
The manager tells me that 4 prospective firms inquired about the RFQ to reevaluate the Big Dig regards to Zone 1 yesterday, I think you said. Steve?
Sometime this week, I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
I believe it was yesterday.
So we do have 4 people that are interested.
Good.
4 firms, I should say.
Very good.
The crosswalk safety campaign was launched. I saw the video. It was great. There's also some written material that I haven't gone through yet because it's kind of long. But the video is good, and I hope people will see it and get a little clear on everyone's obligations and rights when they're crossing at the intersections. And hopefully we can, further along the way, get some more resolution to the issues.
Excellent.
We had a wonderfully collaborative meeting with the district, school district. We're welcoming a brand new principal to our K-8, Evie Mayor. I had a pleasure of meeting with her again today, and she is she's going to be amazing. And so we were able to extend our full-hearted support for bringing her in and allowing us to enhance the school, both the elementary school and the middle school, moving forward. So very happy to see the progress on that.
Excellent.
Jocelyn, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to do this or not, but if we wanted to possibly change the October 15th meeting to October 14th meeting, how do we do that? From October 15th to October 14th, possibly? I've got a business conflict.
It's in October?
Yeah.
So 14.
Right now, it's scheduled for the 15th. I was hoping we could move it to the 14th.
Well, that's,
We'll double check on that and see if we can come to consensus.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
That'll be okay with me.
Me too.
What is the 14th? It's Tuesday.
I think because it was after Columbus Day, a Monday holiday, that's why it was not on the Tuesday and moved to the Wednesday. But it's up to you all.
If we could do it, it'd be really helpful for me.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
We'll look at it and get back.
So, thank you.
All right, with that, we're ready for public comments.
Yes.
First speaker, Karen Bieber Futternick.
Let my pen go.
Good evening. I'm speaking this evening as a member of the Village of Key Biscayne Sustainability Advisory Board. And thank you, Mayor Rasco, for your continued belief in the
Did you give
important
your
work we're doing.
address? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, 798 Crandon Boulevard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for your continued support and belief in the work we do. And thank you very much to Councilmember Bracken and Chris Miranda, who I think is here, for showing up at our meetings. It's really important, and we value your interest and your support. So I'm here to tell you about the work we've been doing to move forward the ordinance that you passed banning single-use plastics at all village-owned facilities such as Village Hall, public parks, community center, police and fire stations, village-sponsored events, and by affiliated vendors. Shortly after the ordinance passed, I met with Todd, and he told me one of the most urgent concerns was the 4th of July parade and barbecue, which is notorious for massive amounts of plastic. So challenge accepted, and I'm going to give you the short story and the great win. The Key Biscayne Community Foundation and Crossbridge Church purchased 3,000 cans of water in aluminum bottles from Open Water, by the way, a woman-founded company with roots here in Miami, and they have an ocean initiative, which is very, it's nice for us, nice partnering with them. The water will be distributed to the parade float, marching band participants. But the sentence is incomplete. It's a very good start, but it's incomplete. So what will complete this? Aluminum can collection and recycling and reporting. So we can know our impact, we can tell the story, and we can help Steve with his annual report showing compliance and including data, which is part of the ordinance. Thank you so much to the dedication and passion of Councilmember Sardinius. Copa Water is our recycling partner, and they are providing free of charge the bins for collection, the recycling, and the reporting, which is really amazing. So we're grateful for this partnership. Each bin at the 4th of July parade, we've got 7 different locations, 14 bins total. The bins will be attended by volunteers. This is to encourage recycling and also to ensure that trash does not wind up in the bins. So education is very important. The Spruce Juice, located across from Starbucks, has generously donated gift cards to each of the volunteers, and Domino's Pizza is going to be providing pizza to the volunteers. This is a great first step, and it's really important for us to tell the story and lead the way on good environmental stewardship. Living on a barrier island comes with great privilege, and it also demands great responsibility. I want you to know that people are watching, and our new ordinance is being held up as an example for other municipalities to follow, which is really exciting. I know that your intent in passing the ban on single-use plastics was good and genuine, and you were thinking, yes, good things will come from this, and it will be impactful. The Sustainability Advisory Board is a very strong team with the gumption and the drive to get things done. We understand and we embrace our charge. But to realize an impact that matches your intent, your financial support is necessary. So please be sure that a small part of the $37 million allocated to resiliency gets put towards realizing great impact. Thank you. See you all at the parade, and please remember to find the bins and put all of your aluminum. Encourage all your friends to put your aluminum in the bin. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
That's a mighty step forward.
Michelle Esteves.
Michelle Esteves, 425 Grapetree Drive. On behalf of the Key Biscayne 4th of July Parade, we are ready to deliver our 66th parade. I am one of the long-standing members, and we work very hard every year to deliver a great parade. Thank you for your support. We continue to deliver and have fun. We have a few t-shirts left, only extra large and extra large. So please, I have a few here. The foundation have them also available. We just have a few left, and this is part of the support the parade and cover the cost that we have. The parade this year probably is going to cost us around $65,000. We have 3 marching bands confirmed, Miami, Western, North Miami, and the one that comes every year from Baltimore, all the way from Baltimore. We are very proud of them to attend to the parade. They raise funds by washing cars, doing pasta dinners, and everything else. We have our regular yearly floats and the horses, the pipe bombs, and this year will be a shorter parade because we have no elections, so will be no politicians. But I want everybody to know that politicians, they are only that pay to enter the parade. So they are big supporters of the parade. Thank you. So we are ready. I was very excited to see this morning all the cones lining up on Crandon Boulevard. So thank you, Todd. Thank you also for ban the plastic. And yes, also parade goers, they will receive water donated. And we are ready So I hope that everybody is ready. So let's enjoy our Happy Fourth. Thank you.
Happy Fourth, all right. Andrew Maury.
Thank you, everyone. And as was announced, my name is Andrew Maury. My address is 210 Seaview Drive. And I'm here to talk about Calusa Park and specifically the proposal that I understand is already in the capital plan to expand the courts and provide more courts at Calusa. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I took a video. Hopefully that stands for 1,000,000. And this is a video of Calusa just yesterday. So the Monday of the 4th of July week at 7 p.m. And you can see that we have 4 courts on this side of Calusa, and I'll show a diagram now, but you'll see all 4 courts are in use. There's people sitting down and standing, waiting to play. So the demand, grossly outweighs the supply right now at Calusa. Pickleball is, of course, one of the fastest growing sports in America, and our island is no outlier to that statistic. And so I'll pull up the proposal just so that you can see it, what we're proposing. So this is the current diagram of our courts now. As you can see, we have 4 courts straddling 2 tennis courts. This is just a different way. The first image was satellite. This is more of a diagram view. And what we're proposing is to remove the bench and the fence dividers that are here in the middle. The bench is in the middle and the fence dividers are at the entrance and at the end. And this would allow us to essentially fit 2 more courts right in the middle. In an ideal world, we would resurface this whole slab and move the 4 existing courts out slightly in order to accommodate the middle courts a little better. Understanding that that's probably not in the budget at this time, hopefully in the future. I think this is a really simple solution that for around $15,000, which is what the proposal I think was submitted to the capital plan, we could have these 2 additional courts, an additional 2 on the other side, so that's 4 extra courts to let everybody keep enjoying the game that everybody seems to love. As you can see, we had overwhelming support come out and support me and support this proposal. So I hope that you take this into consideration when funding the capital plan and that you approve the courts at Calusa. Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy 4th of July.
Next speaker, Luis de la Cruz.
Luis de la Cruz, 640 Allendale. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Is there any way that I can reserve my comments on an item for the time that the item comes up?
Probably.
9D, for instance?
Probably.
Okay, so yes or no, because if not, I have to do it now.
Go ahead, do your thing now, and yeah, we'll probably have more opportunity to discuss that, depending on how it goes on the agenda and all that stuff.
Okay, all right, so, my point is that through today's date, we have spent $5.33 million on design fees with AECOM and $2.13 million in, I'm not sure what you call their work. I'm not sure that it's value added to the actual project because they're not doing any design. So there are our rep, I guess, with the engineers. Something that I always thought was going to be accomplished by our chief resiliency officer. And I thought that that's why we were hiring a chief resiliency officer. Frankly, I have no idea what our chief resiliency officer does, but certainly should have done this. And we would have saved $2.13 million. So now coming up with your budgeting, you should really consider hiring an engineer and maybe 1 or 2 sub-engineers under him in order to take over for the huge amount of money that we're spending on a consultant to do what an employee should be doing. And I think that, I mean, I've asked a few of you independently if you had any idea what our chief resiliency officer does, and you've said to me, no, I don't know what he does. And at some point, we, whose money is actually paying for the salary of the chief resiliency officer, need to know what this person does for the village of Key Biscayne. So that's the beginning of what I want to say for 9D. And 9D is the one that you're asking for another $100,000. And I'm not sure, I mean, I've spoken to Mike, and I'm hoping that somebody makes a motion to table that particular request, because there's no way that you guys should be approving spending one more cent on ACOM until you agree to go forward with ACOM's contract. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's not monopoly. We're talking about real dollars here. And we're talking about $7.5 million that we've already spent on something that a huge amount of people that I know are very, very concerned about. So don't spend any more money. There's no hurry to run and do anything. The hurry is because they want to get started so that people like me stop complaining. Well, I'm not going to stop complaining. I'm going to keep complaining, and my complaints are going to get louder and louder, and it'll probably end up in a referendum, you know, unless I and the rest of us can convince you guys to do it differently. But please don't spend any more of our money at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Next speaker, Marcelo Radique.
How's everybody doing? Good evening. Marcelo Radice, 70 Bay Heights Drive, Miami, Florida. I was a Key Biscayne resident for almost 20 years. I'm here tonight wearing my Key Biscayne soccer hat, along with my colleagues who are here as well. Tonight, I just wanted to address the council based on a presentation that was made at the last council meeting by a resident bringing to your attention an issue during the public comments section, and I just wanted to have the opportunity to respond to those comments, because I thought that they were not true and they were defamatory. But nevertheless, I think we're beyond that, and I think what's important is that, you know, the appearance of that there was a widespread rogue club going on here, not following guidelines and player development, and that's absolutely false. So I just wanted to put that in the record. So we feel like that misrepresentation should be cleared up. We have the privilege of servicing 1,050 children and 2,000 parents under the soccer club right now. It's the largest sports program out here. And given the scale of this program, we're always going to have some differences with some parents when it comes to philosophical differences in terms of how a player should be represented or minutes played, et cetera. The good thing is that, you know, I've seen this after 45 years of being a coach, a player, and an administrator. And this is the classic case of an incident between a coach and a parent. They don't see eye to eye. And unfortunately, they've butted heads all year long. The good news is that we've addressed this. We've done an internal review, and with the guidance of the Village Athletic Advisory Board and Todd and the Director of Parks and Recreation, we're well on our way in terms of finding a remedial solution for this. And I just wanted to bring to your attention, I think it's going to be a positive step forward. We'll take advantage of this moment to revisit and readdress our player development programs and make those public at the beginning of next season. So going forward, I think we're excited that there's some good positive that came out of that. And lastly, I just want to say we've always adhered to the U.S. soccer guidelines, recommended guidelines, the FYSA guidelines, which is the Florida Youth Soccer Association, and the tournaments and leagues that we participate in, and will continue to do so. For the last 15 years, we've been able, with this community, the parents, coaches, the village staff, been able to build one of the most successful Florida state clubs, and now being nationally recognized. By the way, our U15 team is playing in the finals of the Southern Regionals tomorrow, so everybody cheer them on. And they've qualified for nationals in the end of July. So we'll continue to develop and improve our standards, and we just want you to know that. And we're here to receive feedback from everyone. It's an open door. I'd love to be able to have an opportunity to meet many of you so that you can learn more about our program and what we do, and how we want to build the best product for the community, from intramurals all the way up to our competitive programs. And I look forward to speaking with any one of you at any time. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Josie Valdez Hurtado.
Good evening, Josie Valdez Hurtado, 600 Great Tree Drive. I'm going to address the Rickenbacker proposal. Is that a good time to do that?
Yes.
Okay. I attended Ms. Regalado's presentation. She did her best to convince council to pay for the Rickenbacker concept development and feasibility assessment to be performed by Plusorbia Design. She stressed the deadline and the strategies for getting support from our residents, good souls, for the benefit of the rest of Miami. And I'm going to quote some of the things that she mentioned. She spoke about, let me go back for a second. A yes vote from you people will demonstrate, as quoted from the staff memorandum that I read today on budget amendments, first reading, the village commitment to complete the Rickenbacker concept, and that residents have historically been concerned about traffic flow and safety. May I reword those statements? Rickenbacker residents have always been committed to pay our share, and we do not need mega beautiful, decades away, billion-dollar causeways to get to our homes, nor are we only concerned about the year-long nightmares having to plan our weekends around county's events. We are constantly worried sick of a tragedy waiting to happen. Ms. Regalado identified several reasons for why we should pay the county for the causeway and make it more attractive to visitors. For example, and I quote her, "It will become a place to go. It will have more events. It will have a new beach. It will have more income for businesses existing venues like the Sea Aquarium and Marine Stadium. It will offer more spaces for bicycles and runners and concession stands for pickleball courts and so on. It will be attractive for the county to approve because additional revenues from taxes, higher tolls, and additional parking. Overall, it will feel like more Miami. It will become a parkland." Ms. Regalado presented a current traffic study that shows an increase of 65% for Sundays as opposed to weekdays. Considering the obvious huge increase in traffic once those facilities and attractions begin to operate using the same existing 6 intersections, that traffic study would become obsolete. In December of 2021, the council's directives for the Rickenbacker were improve vehicular traffic, optimize intersections, separates vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians, integrate the current planning efforts, address resiliency and stormwater, engaging the stakeholders, and ensure long-term governance, operations, and maintenance. What I see here that you have for you to vote on is way beyond these 6 simple directives by the council. They have things like define the project scope, work include. I mean, this $900,000 are going to have to cover all these things that do not have a cost next to them, and it will take forever, And we're gonna be in $900,000 on top of the stormwater that is going on. And now I see that we're gonna be raised taxes. And I remember back in a few years ago when you had the 2040 vision plan, that you were worried about residents not being able to pay for the taxes, and you even thought about affordable housing. And now we are looking at $1 billion for stormwater, $900,000 for something that we don't know where it's gonna go to, how long it's gonna take, who's gonna do it. We have to find the people, we have to find the money. That's the commitment that you're voting for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, Brett Moss.
Good evening, Brett Moss, 152 West Master Drive. Just want to say I'm in support of the pickleball. I just learned about that tonight, and it looks like a great idea. You guys should do it. I'm here to talk about two items. One is the site plan approval that's coming before you. I just want to say I'm in support of it. I do like the project. It looks good, and I think it would be good for the community to finally activate our entry block. And it's much better, I think, than what was proposed before. I do have some concerns, though, not particularly of this project, but the process of our site plan approval. And I just feel, I took about 30 minutes or so to review it, and I feel that we need a more in-depth, more thorough review of our site plan before it even enters this chamber, before it even comes into the workshop. We need standardizations. We need to make checklists for the people who are submitting it, what is required on what sheets, such as, average height on the sidewalk for your grade should be on every elevation, or the total height of the entire building, not just the top of structure, but the parapets or any equipment. So the real process that we typically go through as architects is that we submit our plans to staff. Staff does a thorough review, gives us comments, we update them. That review is basically to the point of getting approved for permit from the zoning board or the zoning department. Once that is done, then you bring that into this chamber for your guys to review for the first time. You do your review, give comments, they go back and make adjustments, send it back to the staff, let the staff review it to make sure it complies with everything correctly as if it was being permitted, bring it back to you for final approval. Just looking at it, for instance, in the drawings, they're showing 3 monument signs that are not allowed in the code, in which they probably should be asking for it. There's a perimeter fence facing a street that should have a 2-foot setback. It's showing it on the lot line. Parking needs to be 7.5 feet setback. It's 7-foot setback. And I think all of those could probably be easily corrected, just putting that in there. But the one important thing is mechanical equipment. I don't know why this is not shown. This should be shown on every submittal that's coming in. We had the problem with the yacht club. Everyone that we submit to, we have to show it and how it's screened, if it's on top of the building, next to the building. So I think we have to relook at this process. Nothing against this project. I think you guys should approve this project, but we need a more standardized system. The second thing I'm talking about is stormwater. You guys and Councilmember Bracken, you're bringing this up, and I have a high level of respect for you on the agenda tonight, but I do disagree with the request for the AECom work order. I think this is about trust. For me, it's about building trust with your residents. It's about building buy-in with your constituents. For me, this work order, and I understand it, it may be the most cost and time efficient from a business standpoint, but I think it falls short from the political standpoint. And you guys have to keep this in mind, because you need to address the building and building the buy-in and the trust with the residents of Key Biscayne, because in the political world, if you ignore that, it can kill the whole project. I'm not questioning the engineering. I'm not questioning the science. But over the past year or two, witnessing the cost increases and learning the magnitude of the project, many residents feel that we've been upsold. Upselling, as many of you probably already know, is a sales technique to persuade or to purchase a more expensive, upgraded, or premium version of a product or service that was not initially being considered. So many people also feel that the current solution was too drastic. Hypothetically, if I were to go to a doctor and say, I have something on my arm, doctor, and he says, you got to cut the whole arm off, I'm going to go and get a second opinion. I want to go find out if that is really what I need to do. I'm not going to go back to that doctor and say, well, cut it here, not here, doctor. No, I'm going to go to the other doctor. If the other doctor says, it's correct, you do have to cut it off, now we're talking. But there might be another way to resolve the issue. And it could be taking some medicine, and 6 months is gone. So I just wanted to say that I think it's important to get that second opinion. I think that we need to find other ways to reduce flooding. And I believe that this is a good step for us to build trust, even if it costs a little bit more. But please, just keep that in mind tonight before you vote on that work order. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Fausto Gomez.
Good evening, Fausto Gomez, 765 Crandon Boulevard, Penthouse 10, Key Biscayne. Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm here to talk about item 8A, which is the Rickenbacker Causeway. I think, even though it's on first reading, I think it's important to put certain issues on the table for you. Number one, we all recognize the Rickenbacker Causeway is an existential threat to our way of life, period. Okay? We all understand that something needs to be done with regards to the Rickenbacker Causeway, and I fully support the overpass that certainly was proposed. However, where I quibble is, why are we being asked for $950,000? Well, number one, our staff developed a plan for the Rickenbacker Causeway, was submitted to the county. Number two, I understand the manager has been dealing with the county, and we get sort of memos and propaganda how well things are going with the county. So now we have forgotten everything that we have done, and we're moving and spending $950,000 on a new project. That to me is, I quiz basically the necessary for that. Second of all, I really think we're thinking too small. $950,000 for planning, I think we shouldn't do it. We don't control the Rickenbacker, we don't own it, we don't operate it, we essentially have no authority over it. However, I would spend much more than $950,000 for construction of an overpass on the Rickenbacker Causeway, and I think that's where we should focus our money on. So let me give you a couple of ideas. I would basically say, we don't want a ribbon of concrete over the Rickenbacker Causeway. We don't want a sort of a small I-95. That would detract aesthetically from our community and frankly do nothing. What we want is a signature like Calatrava or Gary to come and design it, okay? And I would have Key Biscayne pay for that design after the county has approved it. After the county says, this is the plan that we want, including the overpass, then I think we should come to the table at that moment, and only at that moment, to fund a design, okay? And we should also help fund the construction of that overpass if it is designed by a Gary or a Calatrava or something of that nature that makes it a signature and makes it something that we can be proud of. What we don't want is a strip of concrete over the Rickenbacker Causeway, detracting aesthetically from our community and detracting from the beauty of it there. Mr. Mayor, I understand you're on first reading. Hopefully you basically do not move it to second reading. You go back to the administration, go back and say, this is what we would like to do. Let us fund, not a study. I think we fund enough studies already. We fund a design after it is approved, and we help fund the construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Charles Collins.
Good evening. Charles Collins, 1121 Crandon Boulevard, apartment F205. What I'm learning tonight is the mistake I made in life was not, I built things, and it's clear now I should have studied building things, because we're spending a lot of money on a lot more studies. That seems to be where the money is. I agree with Fausto in the sense that, well, the causeway, $950,000 should be DOA. I agree. It makes no sense to hand somebody a bunch of money that, frankly, I don't think the commissioner, I think her term expires in 2028. She's termed out. So that personal relationship isn't something we should be counting on. On the other side of the coin, I don't see a downside in passing the 950 tonight. I view it as like escrow in a house negotiation. It shows good faith downtown. We don't have to commit it under the conditions that are presented at the moment. Maybe we can work a deal down the road. It's with the Board of County Commissioners that it could eventually turn into some sort of a revenue share. And I'm not sure, but I think the $100,000 or $100 million bond, we can fund retroactively with projects that had to do with sea level rise. Is that right? Well, we'll find out later. The other issue was the money for the big dig. All due respect, debating Zone 1 is like the metaphorical how many angels on the head of a pin. Your hands are tied. You can only deal with Zone 1. But I see on the agenda at some point we're going to be asking $10 million out of that bond for the project. But I can't get a straight answer out of anybody. How much is the project going to be? So you want to keep spending money on these little things, you know, fine. But until we get a number, we the public get a number of what all 8 zones, which we were originally told, is going to come in at with financing, we're just spinning our wheels. I think somebody once mentioned, what is the tipping point? And if we come up with a number of 1 billion, are you willing to commit $1 billion over the next 30 years to this project? And if you're not, and if the public's not, let's move on. Anyway, that's what I got for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Betty Conroy.
Good evening, Council, Chad, Steve. My address is 785 Crandon Boulevard, Unit 1403, here in Key Biscayne. I would like to make a few comments about the notice for tonight's meeting. I read the agenda, I thought, very carefully, and I saw nothing about the request made by Raquel Regalado for, I think it's $950,000 for her planning of the shoreline proposal for the Rickenbacker Causeway. I spoke with several friends who also agreed with me that they thought this was not on the agenda. I understand now, obviously, that it is there, but very difficult to locate. Key Biscayne is an excellent, high-quality community. When we incorporated, we pledged to have excellence in our elected government. Our well-educated taxpayers deserve to have excellence in our government. Without transparency in government, residents lose trust in government. Transparency is the cornerstone of a good democracy. I am quite sure that even though we've had several speakers, but that tonight really very few residents have any idea that this item is not only on the agenda, but ready for a vote on first reading. My question on the proposal is, why are we being asked to pay for planning? Of course, if the project does go forward, Key Biscayne should pay for part of the construction. Whenever we have asked for even a small consideration concerning the causeway, which happens to be our driveway, we are told that the county owns the causeway and we have no say. Are we getting any consideration or even a seat at the table for our contribution? My concern is that the other entities either aren't interested in the project or don't have the money to invest. I believe that the owner of the causeway should do the planning. The shoreline proposal is a beautiful dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek DeZuglu.
Evening, Mayor, council members. Derek Dusoglu, 155 Sunrise Drive. I just wanted to dovetail off of what Karen, my fellow board member, was mentioning in the progress that the Sustainability Advisory Board has been making. You will have a formal report coming up at the beginning of the school year, but we did have a great win that I wanted to share with you. Last week, Debris Free Oceans has a new initiative called the Zero Waste Coalition as part of Miami-Dade County, and they asked me to speak specifically to the single-use plan that the village has implemented. We had a great turnout, both physical presence and virtually. Some people were really keen to learn more and to also get involved. We have the Plastic Free KB initiative, which is being run through the chamber and the community foundation. And what we're going to do is work with the board in order to push that based on the feedback that we got to extend beyond the businesses, but also into the residential side, which was really great. Some fantastic feedback that we got, so we're really excited about that. And then also some updated progress. We have a meeting coming up July 21st, so anybody that would like to attend, we'd love to have you. And we're still pushing those initiatives. And obviously with this waste contract that's coming up in the beginning of the year, we have some great ideas, including an educational component that's not going to be only for the businesses, but also for the residential side to really make a robust recycling program moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we're ready to go.
The next item is the agenda. Approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Defer number, what is it, 9D? 9D until the next meeting. And the reason for that, that's the thing that spoke, the ACOM additional $100,000. And we're, by the next meeting, we'll have proposals back from hopefully a number of people giving us their ideas of what can be done with Zone 1. At that point, we can determine whether we should move forward with the ACOM thing or not. And if so, there's no rush to do it tonight.
I'm in agreement.
Mr.
It's fine.
Bracken?
I'm in agreement, it's fine.
Consensus.
Okay. We'll defer.
Are there any other changes? Sorry. All those in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next item is the first reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending ordinance number 2024-16, which adopted the budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 by revising the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget amendment number 2, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, the item properly before us.
Who's speaking on it, Benjamin?
You want to
Yeah, sure.
set it up here?
Yeah, I'll have the CFO come, but I'll go ahead and set it up. So I think Mr. Mayor, I think the staff memo lays it out fairly well. I think you understand the background. We don't need to go through that. We've had a number of people come up and talk about it. As you recall, a couple of weeks ago, the commissioner came and presented for a second time the shoreline plan. She presented it to the community about a month and a half ago. We did a workshop where they broke it down in detail. And at the end, she asked us if we'd like to invest. I think it was something like $898,000. She rounded up to $900,000. I want to make sure that we have project management money on top of that, so we put that for $950,000. This, of course, is the first reading. We have 2 readings to pass this. This is a budget amendment. I believe there is some due diligence that we need to do between now and August 19th. We are already working with the consultant on what that would be and how we would procure it. But I think that's where we stand right now. If you have any other questions, Benjamin, you want to come up and talk about the procedures? It looks like the commissioner wants to get up and say some words. So, Mayor, if you would like that to happen, I will let her have some words.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I won't take up too much of your time. But I just wanted to give you an update on what's happened since our last workshop. And on the education piece, I'm more than happy to have another workshop and another public meeting between now and second reading. Happy to do that. One of the things that came up during our workshop, and I hope the folks that spoke here have a chance to review it, because I think a lot of the issues that were raised were covered during the workshop. I have met with the secretary for FDOT, and I have met with Stacy Miller and Jimmy after the workshop. And we're actually having a meeting next week to talk about what changes could be made to the NEPA. So during the workshop, we discussed distance. We now know that we could make an amendment as to distance. Our concern is about scope. So we're looking at what changes we can make to scope, and having a meeting with FDOT in Tallahassee in the next few weeks to discuss an expansion of that scope, and also other funding that could benefit this project, since the current NEPA scope is purely a bridge scope, right, as opposed to a stormwater bridge transit scope, with the understanding that, as I mentioned when we did the workshop, FDOT does not view intermittent congestion as a problem. So, right, so that's not something that they fund. They're only interested in funding roads that have a perpetual F rating. So that's not something that we can access, but we are talking with the state about other opportunities, and I will have more information on that in the next 2 weeks. So happy to have another meeting. We can schedule it, and we can go through that. The other thing that we've been doing is analyzing the proposals that we were given and really looking at the feasibility piece, right? So this FDOT piece is a big part of that. So if we can kind of put that to bed, then we can focus on some other things and bring you something over the summer way before your second reading that has a line item detail. We've also decided, we've met with the underline, and we've decided to also bring in the Key Biscayne Foundation to do part of the outreach along with the underline. So those are just some of the things that we're discussing as we put detail into the scope. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to discuss this. I'm always happy to come and do it. If you guys want to have a public meeting every week from now until second reading, I will make myself available. But to the concerns that the board had regarding the buy-in from the county, the reception has been very positive. And Steve can tell you too, he also spoke to them. They said, listen, if you guys will do the engineering, if you can tie this into the NEPA and you can make it work, we're happy to change their perspective. So I think that was the main issue, right? Are we going to plan for no reason? Not the case. They're really interested in what our outcomes would be. And I think, you know, when we look at what we're aiming to do, it's interesting that some criticisms are that it's too much and some other that it's too little. But I think it still remains a wonderful project that I think will be not only significant for Key Biscayne, but for the county. And you always have my commitment to do as much as possible. So taking that into consideration, one of the things, sidebar real quick on this, today the county commission designated me as the county's representative to the bankruptcy on the Seaquarium. So that was an ask. Those conversations are moving quickly, and I want to make sure that we're participating in them, and that there is a consideration of the impact that site also has on the Rickenbacker and on the county. So I'm appreciative. That vote was unanimous. I don't think anyone needs to worry about what happens to me after my term limits. As many of you know, I ran for a county mayor once, and I'll probably do it again in 2028. But that being said, Frank could tell you when I was your school board member, I still took care of Mass Academy way past my election as your school board member. Finally, the other thing that was approved today at the Board of County Commissioners was a pilot project that I'm bringing to Key Biscayne that I mentioned to some of you with rain barrels. I'm going to be doing a pilot here to prove the concept of the use of rain barrels for stormwater mitigation. And I'm actually paying that out of my county commission funding because I think we have a wonderful opportunity here to do something with how much you have all educated your constituents on stormwater. And and I think we can show that there's different ways that you can get to this final product. And finally, I will be bringing another pilot project. I'm going to be working with Steve, and we'll see if we can present it to you before the end of your budget. I have found some sargassum solutions. I know we have talked about sargassum a lot. It's a big budget item. So I think we've found something that can work, and I'll be bringing the details to you all by your next meeting on what we could possibly do together on the county side with the sargassum, and to lower your investment in that, because we may have stumbled upon an interesting solution as I work on all things trash at the county. So always happy to take your questions, and I would really appreciate your support.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things I want to just add on to what the commissioner said, she said it very eloquently, but we're working in conjunction, obviously, with her office, the underlying, plus Serbia as the potential or the selected consultant to figure out how we go into that contract mechanism. And then if you just notice by the name, where originally they presented it as the concept, the shoreline, we're calling now this a concept development and a feasibility assessment. And I think that last part, as she mentioned, is really important, because we want to make sure that we are addressing the difficult questions, whether it's engineering, whether it's environmental, whether it's financial, whether it's the standing of the project with other stakeholders. So we want to make sure that we capture all those as we go forward. So we've got some work to do between now and the 19th, but we'd like to come back with that planned with the second reading for the funding.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the ordinance on first reading, questions?
You want to start?
You can start.
Okay. I guess I'll observe that our planning, our local planning for causeway improvements really focused on improving the through traffic and multi-user safety, bikes, pedestrians, cars. And there's reason to think that that plan was a prospectively good plan. The shoreline plan is vastly broader. It covers a lot of amenity improvements that we didn't touch. And it seems to me that it may be helpful to observe that if we want a multi-jurisdictional partnership, in fact, that includes governance over our driveway, we may need to do something broader and more ambitious to get that kind of partner buy-in. The one point of difficulty that I have, that I've not been able to square, is a new Bear Cut that's elevated, but that ramps down to grade, has to connect with the viaduct. And we have to bring these things together. They got to connect. And whatever else we do north and south of Bear Cut by way of planning at the present moment, there will be that issue at the end of that planning. So in the meantime, while this is proceeding, I hope people are thinking about that.
Thank you. Mr. London.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a beautiful concept. I love it. It's fantastic. It's, in my opinion, far superior to the counties. Question is, should we spend at least $100,000 of Key Biscayne taxpayers' money to advance the plan? So when I make decisions, I look at the criteria, the pros and cons, and say, I'm a steward of Key Biscayne taxpayers' money. What are the benefits? Well, the Bear Cut Bridge, the way this is proposed, we have two separate viaducts, and the existing Bear Cut Bridge stays in operation during the time that this is being built, is a big advantage. Because the other way, they're going to have to close down at least one, possibly two lanes, of the Bear Cut Bridge during the construction, which will be a real pain like they were doing the repairs before. So to me, this is one of the major advantages is from a useful thing for an inconvenience thing for a traffic thing. So I think that's a real pro thing. But then the shoreline, the underline. I think it'd be great, the shoreline, but I have to say to myself, anybody in Key Biscayne going to use it? Anybody in Key Biscayne use the underline now? I don't know. I don't know the answer. We're going to, next thing, this will give us more beach space, more green space on Key Biscayne, on Virginia Key, excuse me, not Key Biscayne. Will anybody in Key Biscayne use it? I don't know the answer. Probably not. Dedicated upper Peloton lanes. Will Key Biscayne use upper Peloton, Key Biscayne lanes? Probably not, but you won't get run over coming down the lower lanes, so that's an advantage also. Then more percolation for storm store because less paving. Key Biscayne doesn't believe in percolation. We're designing the big dig. We're assuming percolation doesn't work. I'm just teasing. I think it's a great idea, but you know, we don't believe in percolation. Okay. Less traffic backups versus Miami-Dade plan. Not presently designed to be a bottleneck northbound at the Powell Bridge, which I think probably can be engineered out, but presently there's no solution to keep us the Miami-Dade plan does not have that problem, but I'm sure this one can be worked out, so this won't have a problem either. Easier to go to Miami, Mass, Rusty Pelican, New Marinas Aquarium, successor Marine Stadium, Hobie Beach, and any new attractions on Key Biscayne. I'm not sure if this is going to be easier for us or harder for us. I don't think it's a big difference one way or the other. It's certainly not a big advantage or a disadvantage. Is it easier for the city of Miami, Miami-Dade tourists to get to all those above? Sure it is. So it's good for them. It doesn't affect us. Miami-Dade committed to the plan. This is my problem. I don't see we have a commitment to Miami-Dade saying, hey guys, go ahead. This is what Raquel was talking about, and say, hey, this is good. If the finance makes sense, it looks good, we'll consider it, and do this rather than the plan we have. So to me, that's very important. Is Miami-Dade willing to contribute to the new plan? Well, I understand, no, they don't want to contribute to this. They're doing their own plan, I understand that. Is the city of Miami willing to contribute to this? I was told, no, politically, they won't do it either. So the state of Florida, I mean, they have Crandon Park, Cape Florida Park, and obviously this is what they call it, not intermittent, whatever Raquel just said. So it's not them either. So who benefits by the plan? I believe we benefit by the plan more so than the other plan. I believe Miami-Dade benefits by Crandon Beach, Crandon Marina, City of Miami. They have the most benefit. They have all the money-making generators as far as rent and activities, and Virginia Key Beach, I'm sure, is going to be developed in the future, the sewer plant area. So they will really benefit by this, I think, better than the Miami-Dade plan. So so is Key Biscayne going to benefit any of the above? Well, we're not going to benefit by Virginia Key, except hopefully we will in the future get some fields there or whatever else. But today, no. So should we contribute to the plan? Some or 100% of it? Should Miami-Dade, state of Florida, state of Miami contribute since they are getting benefit than us? I think they should. Is this the first and last contribution to the plan or the first installment? Raquel said, no, this was the first ask. We don't know what the next ask is going to be. Are we just having an open checkbook since this 900,000 is just the first ask? I mean, again, how much should we contribute? Why should we contribute if the other beneficiaries don't want to contribute? I mean, do I believe we should contribute? Yeah. I believe we should contribute proportionate share. If the other beneficiaries also want to contribute, then I'm all for it. But for us to just throw $900,000 into the pot, not knowing what the second ask is going to be, because this is not the final number. This is the first number, and not knowing how the other beneficiary is going to act and who's going to contribute what, I don't think it's a good use today of Key Biscayne taxpayers' money. That's it.
Thank you. On this side?
I don't want to repeat everything that Ed said because that's going to take an awful lot of time. But I also, the passion for the project, I'm 100% for. I couldn't see a better salesperson for this project than Raquel. My concern is similar to Ed's. I would like to see the city of Miami buy in. However, I also would personally contribute to a GoFunding project if you decide to move this to the private sector. So if you're looking for an alternative venue, I think that raising the capital in the private sector would also be aware. And if there's a means and method to contribute to that personally, I would do that. But right now I'm struggling a little bit with how we, as partner with the other entities, City of Miami and county, are being affected by this.
I would also contribute personally.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that, because I think a little vision goes a long way, and I think certainly that this type of plan would create that requirement or that want to be a part of it from the private sector. I don't see any reason to stop this discussion at the moment. I think we've all talked about there's more discussion to be had, there's more diligence to be had. I know Raquel's working, Commissioner's working on getting higher level of commitments from the other stakeholders in this project, but certainly even Councilmember London very clearly stated, we have a lot to gain from this. There are it was even spoken about in public comments, many of the things that we've asked for are actually being considered and being put in there. We are a seat at the table. We're not looking for a seat at the table, we are at the table. And we're being asked to perpetuate this plan forward and to continue to go. I continue to think that, and I'll say it a million times, a little vision goes a really long way. And if we're gonna do something, we're gonna have one shot at it. And if we're gonna take our shot, let it be the best shot and let it be the best foot forward from this island. And I think what we have is a potentially best foot forward. I think it covers a lot of bases. There's still a lot of questions. I have very similar concerns. Why are the other stakeholders not putting in right now? But I understand speed to market and getting to a place where we can be part of the design at the right timing, as for instance, the Bear Cut Bridge is very important and very crucial to this program. And you know, at the end of the day, we are the trailblazers in a lot of what we do. And I'm very proud of that. And Key Biscayne is a wonderful place that does that and always puts our best foot forward. So I don't want to delay this again. I want this to go to the next stop, but I do think that all of us, I would invite all of us here on council to have our one-on-ones with Raquel, get those hard questions answered, make sure that we're listening to our constituents to figure out what it is that they're concerned about so that we can go with those hard questions and put Raquel to the test and have her answer those questions. And I have no doubt that she will. And then hopefully come August 19th, we have a much clearer picture of where we are, especially from a standpoint of commitment from the other stakeholders. That's it.
Nancy?
I guess I'm in a different place than everybody else. I think, first of all, I think Key Biscayne residents would make use of the underline as it is now, to the extent that it is actually a linear park. I think Key Biscayneers, along with other Miami-Dade County residents, do make use of that passageway. We are, and we always have been, leaders. This causeway is more important to us than to anyone else. We have been complaining about it, we have been suffering the lack of care by all the other stakeholders, and this is our chance, and we should grab it to show that we care. We're gonna put our money where our mouth is, and Steve has made clear in his recommendations that the money, that we're just not gonna write a check and give the money over. There are certain parameters and agreements that are gonna have to be in place, and we're gonna have to have some buy-in from the county. And you can't compare this plan to the county's plan, which, as far as I know, hasn't actually been ever presented. I've seen something that may be akin to the county's plan, but there's no resiliency aspect to it. We're doing everything. We're looking at stormwater. We're expending money, regardless of what project we ultimately decide to go forward with. We are concerned with resiliency. This causeway is everything to us, and I think that we need to show our vision, put our money where our mouth is, and it won't be the first ask. We're gonna have to make hard choices about how we're gonna spend our money, but I don't think we should let this opportunity go by.
Thank you, and I would certainly agree with your comments. I loved the comment made by Betty that this is a dream. So let's chase the dream a little bit here. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's start the conversation and get to the next level. This is only a beginning. Yes, this is only a beginning, but everyone has said that this is worthwhile, that it is something beautiful that enhances and makes all the stakeholders better, whether it's the Virginia Key, whether it's the Bear Cut Bridge. I think all these things come together and we have an opportunity to continue to sit at the table, to work on something that everyone in this village understands is a huge and necessary thing that we need to move forward with. So, yes, we need to answer all those questions, and yes, we're going to have that money tied up and make sure that we don't disperse it unless we're getting the things that answer the questions that we have. They answer the questions that are before us that tell us whether or not this is feasible. So finding out whether the dream can come true, I think it's worth putting some money aside to figure that out as we go along. It's not a blank check. It's not a carte blanche. It's simply saying, we really are at the table. We're really wanting to work with them. If they don't want to work with us, then, you know, the money goes away. We bring it back in. So, yes, as the manager mentioned, there's work to be done before we go, before we get to second reading. We are delighted that our commissioner is fully behind this and is working with us to try to achieve this, which is so important to our community. And it's so important to other stakeholders. So it's not just about us. It's about other stakeholders that are involved throughout that causeway. And that causeway belongs to all the people in Miami-Dade County. So we should be part of making that better. And that's why I'm going to definitely support this tonight here. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember London?
No.
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
And Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved on first reading.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is a resolution of the Village Council.
Is this the site plan approval? Yes, okay.
Yes. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving a site plan for 2 commercial buildings consisting of retail office space and a padel court facility for the property located at 122224 Crandon Boulevard, providing for findings, providing for recording, and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Second is
Good
properly before us.
Good evening, Mayor. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so the clerk will have to swear in any witnesses who are going to speak at the hearing tonight. If anyone's going to speak on this item, please stand up and the clerk will swear you in now.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give this evening is the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Chad.
In council.
Jocelyn, I have to recuse myself. I'm an active subcontractor for Terra, so I'm going to have to step out. Thanks.
Good evening, members of council. Jeremy Karras-Gauger, Building Zoning Planning Director. And having reviewed the site plan, this is ready to be voted on before you. I believe the applicants have a presentation, but before they do that, I'd be happy to answer any questions based on the memo submitted already and the site plan, which I hope you all had the opportunity to review, which we sent 12 days ago.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, indeed.
Jeremy, looking at your conditions, it almost looks like extortion on B, E, and I. If required, payment for a proportionate share for general transit traffic mitigation purposes. Do we have any kind of payments now? Do we require any other developer to pay for that?
Yes, so this is actually based on a state-approved formula that if they show that their traffic is going to impact our site, then beyond a certain capacity, it gets plugged into a state formula. Like the last application had a considerable payment because it was going to generate quite a bit of traffic. The first draft of the traffic analysis provided by the applicant actually shows that they're not going to need to pay into it. We're still auditing that, and we're still going to review that, but their first draft actually shows that they are not.
Well, I understand the other, number of other municipalities have mitigation costs, but I didn't think we did.
We do, and in fact, the application for the condominium building, because it had residential density, for instance, that required mitigation for our lack of park space. In this case, because it's not a residential project, there's no school concurrency and there's no park concurrency, but we still look at traffic.
And E, why do they have to provide for electrical vehicle outlets?
So that's something that council in the past, and it has become standard practice for our site plans, that we're asking for electrical vehicle parking to be provided for. In this case, you know, they were planning on providing some anyway, so.
Well, why should we do it? Why should we make them do it?
Well, because council has decided to in the past, and it's been
So we made
consistent
that
with
part of
previous
our
discussions.
Zoning code?
It would be smart to do so, I
But
think.
it's not in our zoning.
It's not currently in our zoning
So
code.
therefore, it's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory, except council has made it mandatory in the past. And so we decided to stay consistent with.
It's either part of the regulations or it's not. Right now.
Well,
it's
no, there is regulations, and then there's previous practice by this council that I think also matters.
Okay. And finally, the other thing, of course, is the parking for the village freebies.
That was something proffered by the applicant.
Proper for the applicant? We didn't request it.
I did not request it.
They just thought it was a nice idea. So it wasn't
I can
extortion.
tell you it was not a
wasn't
condition
extortion.
of mine prior to based on the site plan
They
application.
wanted some other comments, I'm all for the thing.
Okay.
I have some questions.
Go right ahead.
Is the freebie street legal?
The freebies are street legal, yes.
Okay, so they're licensed vehicles?
Yeah, and
Curiosity.
they are. And we actually have, I think in previous times we said, hey, you're not allowed to have golf cart parking dedicated with the smaller spaces, but we realize there are certainly street legal golf carts. And so if, for instance, they're gonna be having shuttling people back and forth between the sales center and their actual job site, they could have golf cart parking provided they're street legal vehicles.
Right, okay. I'm going to echo a little bit of what Brett said. The application includes the 2 monument signs. Your notes say that the signs are not permitted.
Correct.
So I guess that means they're not going to be able to have signs. If that is the case, I think they should ask for a variance to have 1 sign because traffic coming in there's not going to be any way to know what's there. Let me finish, please.
Yep.
Unless there's a sign on the building, which won't look good. So I think my understanding is that otherwise there are no variances involved in this application. But that's just my idea. I'm a little bit disappointed because I'm not an architect that there are not more renderings. I'm very concerned about really how high the padel courts are and how you're going to see them from all the different angles. And I just couldn't see that. In fact, the couple of images that were included, if there are going to be murals on them, they're going to be more visible rather than less, and it was kind of hard to see them because I think they tried to make them look transparent, maybe because some of them are glass, I don't know, but I just didn't feel like I had a good understanding of exactly the way it was going to look from the street, from the Golden Hog, the Harbor Plaza, from the Harbor Drive side. So I would like to have seen more of that, and I don't. Having lived through the debacle at the yacht club with the equipment, I don't know where the equipment is or how it's going to be screened, and I'm not expert enough to have maybe I've overlooked that in the plans, and I don't know. I would ask that the screening, the landscaping that's identified as screening be mature and tall, so that we don't have to wait years for it to grow in to cover up what are going to be some tall structures. I think that some of the Patel courts are going to be metal. I saw something about metal.
The structure for the Padel building it's a metal structure.
So the interior ones are metal, and the outside ones are like plexiglass?
The outside ones are screened and
just
do
a
include plexi, I believe.
I have one other, what I think is a interesting problem. The applicant is not the owner of the property, right? I have that, they're a tenant.
The presenting applicant is the tenant, but they are submitting on behalf of the owner. And
Okay.
the owner is absolutely involved as the applicant.
Okay, so who's going to sign the easement agreement?
The easement
owner.
agreement will have to be signed by the property owner.
Okay,
That is a
because
property rights transfer, yeah.
Okay, I understand that from a legal perspective, but from the documents here, it looks like it has to come from the applicant who's not the property owner. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
It's clear that because
Okay.
the applicant is the
And
property owner.
My last question is, how long is the lease for I brought this up at the workshop. How long is the lease? Because I'm concerned about what's going to happen when, what I assume will be very quickly, all the units are sold in the beautiful project, and then we have this building there that could be empty. And the Padel courts, who's going to run the Padel courts? Who is running them? Is that going to be a subtenant of the applicant? So I don't really understand the structure, and I'm concerned about what we're going to be left with as our entry block when all this is over.
Okay, so let me go in sequence, and you can test me to make sure I've gotten all the points. First point being regarding signage. We would always have a separate sign permit. There are, even excluding the potential of a monument sign, you're allowed to have directional and indication signs for parking. So I think we'd be covered one way or the other there. Regarding the elevations and the renderings, sometimes I think maybe I can take things for granted, but being an architect and having prepared these types of drawings many, many times. My concerns that I outlined in my analysis, I am not worried about the views coming down Crandon because the foreground is going to be that office building. And even though the Padel courts are taller, they're going to be in the background. I share your concerns regarding Harbor Plaza. And I think I mentioned that in the report. This is going to it's going to be literally a wall on the property line at Harbor Plaza. Our code encourages that sort of construction, though. It encourages assuming that when Harbor Plaza is built out or the next project's getting built out, that those interior lots would be built with zero lot lines to create sort of a continuous retail facade that our code encourages and would create that. However, the interim step when you don't have a continuous facade is you're going to have some of these conditions where you have a pretty significant wall. So it's going to include a mural there.
It's going to have murals, if I remember correctly from the workshop, on all the walls, all
Right.
4 sides.
Although originally they didn't have one on that Harbor Plaza side. So we asked for that inclusion and they updated it. And, it's a concern, but it's also something our code sort of encourages. So I think it does create a little bit of an awkward interim condition, but it's probably the correct thing to do as well.
Is there going to be screening there?
No, because it's on the property line. So the only screening would be that by Harbor Plaza and their landscape buffer there. So that was second. Third was
I was asking
Help
about
me
the
out, please.
material,
Future maintenance.
The material question we answered. Okay,
Future
so
maintenance
fourth
operation.
was the lease. So one of the things I absolutely attempt to do in my analysis and when reviewing the architecture is not consider the tenant. Is this a viable building for this use, for the next use, for the use after that? And I believe one of the things they changed in their design is that the building is sort of L-shaped, or it has like a courtyard facing the street that you could easily imagine functioning. You can imagine this building transitioning to Class A office space. You can imagine it as some kind of services like doctor's office or something like that, or even a restaurant in the future. So, you know, the duration of their lease, I do not know. They probably don't know. They hope it's short, I presume. But I do think this building is something that would easily transition well into another use in the future. And we can't dictate that. I do know, you know, I'm going to ask them to answer the questions about management and operations. I think I know, but they will be able to answer definitively.
I have a concern that the Padel courts could ultimately, I think they'll be successful, but if they're not, they could ultimately be used for some alternative purpose. And what could something like that be used for? Storage. And that would be
Not in our code.
yeah, well, I just don't want them sitting there lying fallow, not getting used and not being torn down, and that's what we're stuck with forever. So
I mean that is a certain risk with any construction. What I can tell you is from certain noise complaints that didn't meet our threshold for noise that I've heard from the Ritz is that the Padel courts at the Ritz get heavily utilized. So I think it's something that this has a high chance for success based on the usage rate at the Ritz-Carlton.
Thank you.
All right, I've got a couple of things. I think this is a lower scale than the site plan that we've seen before for this property, so
considerably.
That automatically is a plus for me also. The challenge here is having to leave the village to go, if you're a village, you're going to be a village user of this property, it's going out to come back in. And I like this line, and I'll quote you. It says, "The entire access and Crandon frontage is challenging for reasons outside the control of the property owner, and the curb cut cannot be, nor should it be, relocated." So this is one of the challenges that we have is how to get into the building. So I'd like to hear from the applicant to talk a little bit about how we can address that, knowing that it's not their fault and nothing, necessarily that we're going to have them do, but how we can work together on that to improve that entrance. The other things I am concerned about, and I want to hear something about the noise from the courts. That could be for the people across the street a potential a potential issue. And then one of the things I would also love to see is, because of this traffic situation, is if we could solve a golf cart entrance and also have some kind of pedestrian access that makes it easy to get from Harbor Plaza to there. And again, I know these things are not wholly under our control or their control, but some things to work on that I think would be positive. If you could comment on that, and then the applicant also could help us on this issue.
Let me address the noise issue initially. Padel is a particular concern because it's not, imagine pickleball, but you're playing against a tambourine. The walls are these large plexiglass panels that resonate. it's an issue at the Ritz in particular because you have them in a location on the south side of the property where you have multifamily buildings that are, you're not just getting sort of, any ground level screening isn't particularly effective there because of the way the sound moves. In this case, you're going to be screened from any residential by the road noise of Crandon. So I am not concerned about the noise at this location. They're even buried a little bit further in the site. You're going to hear it in Harbor Plaza in a commercial space. I don't think that's a non-compatible adjacent use. It's adjacent to their parking lot. So I think in this case that is much less of a concern than where we were with the Ritz. The nearest adjacent tenant is really the dental school. So I think it's going to be pretty well screened for noise. The issues with traffic, I would have loved to included a bunch of conditions, all of which were dependent on working with Miami-Dade County, working with the parks, also working with us potentially on anything from sidewalk realignments to anything else, even the bike lane improvements that they suggest and that will get approved by the county, are dependent on those outside agencies. So we can't make it really 100% their responsibility. Right. That's a challenge. And then, of course, with Harbor Plaza, if all of us think it's a great idea and the folks in Harbor Plaza do not, they have to be party to the agreement that would even just open up a hole in the fence. So I think I'm going to let the applicants answer that one regarding any negotiations or possibilities of working with Harbor Plaza, but of course it makes sense as cross access at least for pedestrian.
Okay.
I think my biggest concern is, while not making them fully responsible, I'd like to see a best effort plan for traffic mitigation. I mean, we already have, we had a nice win and success with our right turn lane. A 90-degree angle turnoff of that street could pose some serious issues, especially now that people that are accessing that particular building that weren't accessing anything before are now going back out and adding to that incoming traffic. And so I see some data here, but I don't see a very clear picture on what those mitigations are. And what is that best case? What is that best effort, right? That best foot forward from their standpoint. I think Councilmember Moss, or former Councilmember Moss, brought up some interesting points as well. I do like the planning of the building. I like how it looks. I think it is a nice, relatively natural looking representation of the entry block. I think the entry block is a challenging space, to say the least, having only one entry and one exit. But that best faith effort to try to make it as functional as possible. And then I do have some concerns about the continued operation and management of that lot or of those paddle courts, because I would hate for it to become an eyesore, an unkempt area, something that's not being used and something that isn't being enjoyed by our residents. And then to the mayor's point, I think some easy access for golf courts, golf carts, bicycles, and or walking traffic would alleviate a little bit of this traffic and get people out of their cars and getting them to walk to this otherwise, unused entry block that hasn't been used for, 3 decades, 4 decades. And so it'd be nice to see some people enjoying it. That would be certainly nice. And as far as the noise, I'm not also very concerned, because I do think Pickle is much louder and creates a little bit more noise, and it doesn't seem like there's anything running around that. Has there been also any collaboration with the other mall and also the mobile station to create any kind of better flow?
Yeah, so.
And again, I know we can't hold them fully responsible, but this is in our hands to approve or not, right?
Yeah, the applicant's going to need to address those items directly. What I can say is we do have good pedestrian and bicycle access from the right-of-way. And we have a continuous path to racks to both buildings. That's a nice, safe, right adjacent to the buildings, which is actually very nice. That's where you want it. So it's the shortest route into the site from the street and it gets you to both building entrances and to good bicycle parking as well. So hopefully people will be utilizing that.
And maybe this question is for you, Jeremy. You know, I know it's a county road. We had a great success with the right turn lane. Is a simple modular fixes to increase the length of that right turn lane? To go farther out?
It's
to
not
include that entry into that?
It's not possible because of the location of where their entryway, their curb cut is.
Right.
You would have to be, well, look, I'm not a traffic
I'm
designer.
envisioning up until the road, kind of the rotary
Yeah,
sign.
yeah,
more or
I
less.
think I understand what you're saying, is saying that like the right turn lane would include
Their entry.
Their entry.
Right, I mean, it would, I think it would alleviate some. I don't know, but I'll let the engineers talk a little bit about that and see what they're envisioning.
I just want to ask you, are there lights? Are those padel courts can be used at night?
Yeah, I'd have to check the site plan. I believe there are. I believe the intention is to use them at night.
Is there a cutoff time for that?
It would be based on our
Would that be on the
noise ordinance, probably. We don't have an explicit like lights out rule. But we would presumably, even if there was a noise
Well, we do
issue
in our
from
parks.
Harbor Plaza.
We do in our parks,
We
right?
do in our parks that we
wonder
govern,
if that-
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, again, I think your other point was regarding operations.
Yeah,
I'm
operations and further
confident-
maintenance after the fact.
Yeah, I'm confident we have a building that is adaptable, and that's.
Okay.
And then I believe.
by the way,
maybe-
what's the elevation, BFE +1 or +2?
I believe it is at BFE +1. It's always much easier to manage circulation and ramps. Every foot of ramp is another roughly 13, or sorry, every foot of elevation is roughly another 13, 14 feet of ramp. So
Okay,
it adds up.
applicant, how much time do you need? 10 minutes? Okay, I give you 9.
Good evening, everyone. Ian DeMello from the Shubin Law Group. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Environmental Resilient Communities LLC. Joined this evening by David Martin and the Terra Development Team. We also have with us our architect of record, Eamon Mansour with ODP, our civil engineer, Hernando Navas from Schwebke. We have our traffic engineer, Raquel Salanikia with Kimley Horm, and our landscape architect, Jeff Suter with EDSA. We are here before you for site plan review and hopefully approval for the property at 12, 22, and 24 Crandon. We are before you on May 13th, and we always appreciate that opportunity for those workshops because we got some very nice constructive comments from everyone here on the dais related to design, landscape, a lot of the concerns and comments that we just heard previously directed at Jeremy. As you'll see from the presentation from our engineers and our design consultants, we believe we've addressed all those comments, and the result is a really special project for the village's entrance feature. As we present in the workshop, we are proposing 5,300 square foot commercial retail that will be the sales center for 301 Ocean, and we do have the Padel facility that has 3 indoor courts, 2 outdoor courts, a pro shop, and a cafe. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over. We do have all compliant parking as required under the code. The report before you from staff, from Jeremy, is a recommendation of approval because the application does meet all the code requirements, including setbacks and all the design criteria. So with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Mr. Martin.
I'll be efficient with everybody's time. David Martin, 3310 Mary Street. Thank you for your time today, and really looking forward to presenting this project to you and trying to get the entry block going. One big move I want to just talk about, I think, and I don't know if this is a traffic mitigation strategy, but I think it is. But we're and Kimley Horn just confirmed it. We're 80% less traffic than the prior approval. Okay, so that's kind of a big, I think, move, and we're going to show shortly. I think Hernando's going to show a lot of the wayfinding and signage of that intersection and how we're trying to mitigate any impact from a pedestrian safety and bike safety perspective as well. So obviously you've seen the design here. Here's the site. You all know it better than anyone. We'll talk also about the circulation.
One of the questions that were asked was also the multi-tenant nature of the site. Part of your comments forced us to change the design and make it more of a multi-tenant. So we have a multi-tenant strategy for future use. Our lease is 5 years, so you know that. And the operator for the Padel facility will be the owner. And so they'll be running that facility. I think this is a very cool, amazing perspective that, you know, we worked a lot with the design team to come up with something that really felt right for Key Biscayne and natural, kind of coming from Crandon. And so, you know, we felt that, you know, this was a great look and feel and kind of really bringing a lot of the, you know, the landscape and native flair of the landscape and green infrastructure of Key Biscayne. So we wanted to do that. The building is actually 15 feet and the Padel courts are 30 feet. 15 feet, 30 feet, right? And so we have a design that we'll talk to you about. I was surprised to know we're not getting our sign approved today. I wasn't sure about that. But Jeremy maybe can clarify that for me later, or maybe we're not, or we're really not getting it. But I do think that this entry point is important, and a lot of the mirrors and signage and stop signs that we're going to show you shortly at this intersection, I think are going to be important. But I think having the ability to have signage here so that I think is smart from a vehicular safety perspective and pedestrian and bike safety to have that signage there. So I'm hoping that we can somehow get that done. Here's our plan, 5,300 square feet. Here's the design, and here's kind of some of the arrivals, trying to just sort through that. That's that courtyard that I think Jeremy was talking about, that are created there for multi-use access and being able to split that up into multi-tenant. Here are some of our elevations, and I'm just running through that. I think the indoor Padel facilities are good from a noise standpoint. They also buffer the shopping center, and I think that's because there's really no street, right? So our frontage is really just Crandon, but I think we could have done and I was just talking to the team, maybe another rendering, and we will do that for you. But I think, and then this is really not, it's basically an aluminum plexi structure, right? So this is the facility, that's the materials for the 2 outdoors. And then we have the 3 indoor that are shown here, that you also have the plexi inside as well. We will put a covenant that we're not doing self-storage on the property if that's what's necessary, because we're not doing that. And so here is the different elevations of the murals, which we think are kind of inviting and in a much better condition, and kind of even anchor the shopping center a little bit. And we'll work with the shopping center owner on just making sure that, you know, whatever he needs as it relates to parking or wayfinding or signage, that we coordinate with him. But again, I think it's 30 feet, right? So I think we did a design here that kind of shows kind of that it's really not visible because kind of the office building's in front of it in a way. So this kind of perspective shows kind of what the look and feel is at the shopping center, and kind of the variance in height from the retail to the Padel, and then from the office to the Padel, and then from Crandon. So that this was a kind of a neat elevation that I think, and also obviously all the landscaping that's going to be around it, because we do want to make this, you know, inside a garden. So here's a sales center potential future use, right, with 2 different accesses. So obviously, I think from a parking compliance perspective, I mean, I think office is probably going to be the use that this would utilize, and so I think it's you know, that size of 5,000 square feet could be a single tenant user, or could be 2 tenants of 2,500 each. But this is just showing what it is. Again, the reduction in programming, I think, and the reduction of traffic by 80% are important. We comply on you know, all the zoning stuff. We're way under the FAR that's currently allowed on the property, so I think that's important. And then also the use and the types of uses that we're doing are also reduced. We comply to all the setbacks requirements. One of the things we need to do is work with the village on that entry point with that 90-degree turn, which kind of has an angle but trying to open up the landscaping to have a better view angle and view triangle for pedestrians and vehicles and also people coming out, I think is important. But our traffic planner will talk a little more about that. This just shows that we're complying to open space and lot coverage. Obviously, Jeff is here. I don't know how much time you all want me to present, because I could just run through the landscape.
Sure,
or I
go
could-
ahead.
Yeah, and so, you know, this is all the tree species, and we really are heavy on the border of, you know, if you look at the line and how much density and canopy, and I do agree with you that planting twigs sometimes is not what we want, so we want to have, and we're okay with a certain canopy requirement that we have as it relates to what we install. So, you know, that's something that, you know, we would, you know, proffer to do, because it's important for the whole visibility of the entry block, which we want it to be as beautiful as possible for Key Biscayne. So, but this just talks a little bit about some of the planting and shrubs and ground cover, kind of what, you know, how we're doing the pavers throughout the center. This gives us a little more of a hardscape legend here, and then the civil is a little more detailed. I think I'm going to need Hernando for this one, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to grab Hernando for a second, just come up and just maybe run through this real quick.
Good evening, everybody. Hernando Navas with Schwebke Shishkin, 3240 Corporate Way. So the drainage system is going to be composed of 3 drainage wells. Those are the blue squares that you see out there. Then we're going to have a series of drainage inlets to collect the stormwater and be able to convey it to the different drainage wells where we can dispose the water and we can comply with DERM's new criteria as well as your criteria and FDOT. So, you know, like I said, that's the idea about the drainage I've previously presented to you guys. In addition to that, we have the 10-foot drainage easement along the property line. So we're leaving and moving all the utilities so that you have that corridor available to do whatever installation you need to come across our site. Basically the grading, you know, we're bringing up elevations from about a 4 at the edge of pavement to about a 6 as we enter our site. And because FEMA is 9, when we add that additional foot, which is the required for the building finish floor, we're going to be at an elevation of 10. So we're bringing the elevations of the site upwards so that we can be as high as possible and diminish the amount of ramps that we might need otherwise. Again, everything is collected, sent to the drainage. Some of the water is allowed to infiltrate before it runs into the inlets. The purpose of that is to make sure that some of that rainwater does replenish your fresh water lands, which is very important for areas that are coastal, so that you can keep your trees alive and keep that salt water at bay. But basically, that is the concept of the drainage. I don't know if you have any questions about the design.
Maybe we covered this earlier, but my recollection was for the original site plan, there were 2 easements. One on the north side, I guess, and one on, is that right, Jeremy?
So the previous site plan, we had actually, I believe staff had requested a single easement on the north side. And then at council, we had 3 sides.
Okay.
The one we really need is the north side.
Why did we request 3?
Because they were available and the building was set back on all 3 sides. In this case, they're building to the property line, so the space isn't available. The one from Public Works Resilience Future Needs is the north side.
Roland, do you agree with that?
The north side easement? Oh, come on.
Is that really the only easement that we could make use of? Or is predominantly the correct easement to make use of? My recollection was that during the original site plan review, we had requested 2 additional.
Excuse me,
I think you have to be sworn in.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Roland, were you sworn in earlier?
I was not.
Okay. So maybe.
Try not to swear, would you?
That's easy.
Do you, please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are giving this evening is the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So not being particularly familiar with this site plan, because I haven't really looked at it a priori, the north side easement is a critical easement. If we were to want to do any kind of enhanced drainage to a future outfall or have some sort of like pump station capacity there, more so, I think, than a drainage easement anywhere else.
Do you recall why we requested the other two and why we all felt that that was a significant request?
Personally, I don't. I think that was a discussion that may have been had while Jake was still here. When the previous project was proposed, I don't know.
The previous site plan?
Yeah. You know, I mean, wasn't there a previous project before this?
Yeah.
And that's when it, that's when it,
2019.
that's when it came up, I believe.
Time really flies, huh?
No, this was-
2019.
this was Site plan approval back in 2022.
Yeah.
So I think, Councilmember, what it was is, I think, number one, I think Jeremy said it, there, you know, there was setback and it was available, so I think we went ahead and took advantage of that. You know, following on what Roland said, you know, the requirement is really just along the north side, whether it be stormwater pipe, whether it be a pump station, or whether it be some sort of wall that's gonna create a boundary on the northern part. The two, if you take a look at the two easements along the west and the south, in fact, we'd probably have to get an additional easement from other properties, so that would not be that valuable. I think it was just a target of opportunity in our last approach. Then all plans that we're looking at, we're just looking along the northern boundary.
Right. So this is really the critical easement. Yeah, the north side easement is the critical easement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
With none there, I think the next item real quick, I just wanted, there's a series of traffic improvements that we've made. You know, I think that the driveway will be stop controlled. There will be pedestrian warnings on driveway. There'll be convex mirrors proposed south of the driveway. There'll be a yield to pedestrian regulatory sign. So maybe you could just walk them through the, I mean, this is more of a trip thing, but maybe, do we have somewhere? And then also, you know, we want to talk about the access in and out. Let's see, is that?
Yeah, I can talk
go right
about
ahead.
this. So these are the improvements that we're doing, mainly for bicyclists. We have the green pavement, which is one of the safest way of making sure that driveways, before they cross that, they actually understand that there's a bike lane. In addition to that, one of the better things is that we do have a stop access. As they exit the drive, you're gonna have a stop condition. In addition to that, we're adding yellow signs showing that there are potential bicyclists or pedestrians crossing in front of the stop bar. Typically, Miami-Dade County just requires the stop bar and the stop sign, but in this particular case, we're going above and beyond that and adding that additional warning sign in yellow. That's for the drive or for the cars coming out of the driveway. For the cars that are going to be coming along the road, trying to make that right turn into the parking lot, you're gonna have that warning pedestrian, yield to pedestrian, so that they're not only aware that there is a pavement in green that tells them that there might be a cyclist, but they also are warned about any pedestrian on the crosswalk or on the sidewalk. Again, typically this is not required by the county because the way they look at driveways, as the car is coming up into the actual driveway, cars will tend to slow down and they have a feeling that they're entering into pedestrian territory. But because of your concern, we went ahead and added that yield sign. In addition to that, we also added a blind driveway, even though it's visible, as an additional warning of any pedestrian or cyclist that is coming on the sidewalk rather than on the pavement, on the green pavement. So again, and then in addition to that, the last thing that we added, one more, was that convex mirror to be able to provide additional visibility to the driveway or to the driver. Not only did we added all that, but we're also in compliance with FDOT site visibility requirements for cars, pedestrians, and bicyclists. So again, we make sure that that driveway exiting the site is in compliance and added additional safety features to it. I don't know if you have any questions.
Let's go back here to talk a little bit about access. We have the queuing analysis, we have trip generation, so I think the trip generation, we're 80% less traffic than what was the prior site plan approval. This shows what our PM and AM trips are for the office and the courts. This shows a queue lane analysis that we did, and there's, I guess we comply to whatever standards were required for our queuing analysis here. This is the maneuverability that we have within the property here. And this kind of shows kind of how people are getting in and around the parking facility with their cars, as well as where the loading is going, which is at the edge and end of the property.
Can you go back to that?
Yeah.
If you're walking to the site, where would you walk in?
It's a good point, but so if.
Same place where the cars go in?
So right here is one condition that I think, and then there's also a condition right here. Oh, the next slide, sorry. You could jump in. Go.
Sure.
You do it. Yeah. All right, go.
Good evening, Raquel Saloniki, traffic engineer with Kimley Horn to Alhambra Plaza. This slide shows the pedestrian access. There's there's, I believe, 2 points of entry. There's one here to the main area, and is that it?
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
This one here, that connects straight through to the front of the building. And I'll go ahead and just show the rest of the slides here. The vehicular access pass, as you've seen in the maneuverability analysis, they just turn right into the drive aisles and right out onto Crandon Boulevard. Golf cart access for licensed golf cart uses those same vehicular drive aisles.
Let me see that again.
Sorry, yeah. And the parking is located just in front of the building itself. And the cyclist access is provided two ways. One is within the vehicular drive aisles, but also they have this designated bicycle path that runs through the front of the building. And the bike parking, I believe, is provided over here, adjacent to the courts.
I'm not sure if you're aware, it just occurred to me, there's some kind of access on Harbor Drive beyond 7-Eleven. It's a golf cart access that goes to Calusa that might help. Cool. Does anybody know about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can
jump in.
Yeah, I've seen people using it. I've used it myself.
It is commonly used by folks to get back and forth to Calusa. It's close to this, but there's also the FP&L elevated pad in this area that's most closely adjacent to this site. So because we looked at it, is like, oh, maybe we could connect there, and that would give them direct golf cart access where they don't have to go beyond village limits, which would open it up to beyond just street legal golf carts. But there are definitely some challenges, and of course, it would have to go through the Crandon Park Master Plan Committee, et cetera. So it's certainly something to look forward to in the future.
The substation is in the park.
The substation that's in the park, right? So
it's subject to that.
Yeah, and that substation's elevated, so it has a lot of slopes around it. Like it would require a lot of additional study. I think it's worth looking at, but.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at.
But in any case, you could take your golf cart and go into the Calusa parking lot and then have a just very short drive. It's not permitted.
Technically speaking, golf carts are not allowed outside village limits. Now, should we try and expand the MOU to allow them to as far as Calusa Circle?
Okay.
Maybe.
You could park in Calusa and walk.
Good parking, yeah.
The ultimate traffic mitigation plan is to get people out of cars. Especially when they're going to exercise.
Definitely. And while I'm up here, I just wanted to address, Vice Mayor, your concern regarding the turn lane. It's actually not, something that we would recommend to extend the turn lane to run through the driveway. Typically, when cars are approaching a turn lane, they kind of take that first opportunity to get into that turn lane, and that can kind of cause some confusion when you have cars that are either slowing down in order to get to the signal within that turn lane, or cars that are trying to turn in immediately and may stop shorter. So that is kind of a safety concern. It's an ideal location where we have the driveway because it is out of that turn lane where it started, as well as it's on the northernmost part of the site. So again, it's just that distance from the signal out of the turn lane. It is really in the most optimal location that it can be.
And what about widening the angle a bit to allow for not a less of a 90 degree, which I think.
So, yeah, I can touch on, I have it here in the maneuverability analysis. So understanding that the drive aisle itself does create an obtuse angle, even though the curb cut itself is at 90 degrees. You can see here that the maneuverability analysis does show there's no conflicts for a car similar to a Suburban with a third row, one of those larger vehicles. No conflicts are shown in this analysis.
And curb cuts need to remain 90 degree angle? They couldn't match the obtuse angle of the actual driveway?
Think about this, just go on.
Yeah, well, so the driveway has the angle, actually a better angle than 90 degrees to facilitate a better turn, easier turn. Maybe a faster turn, but before that wide angle, you have a 90 degree. So can that 90 degree be cut to match the obtuse angle of the driveway?
Well, you're talking about the driveway on site.
Yeah.
The driveway on site, I'm sorry.
That's what it looks like on this picture, right?
The driveway on site, it has an adverse angle if you look at it, right? So you really want to make it a 90. So by the time you hit what is required for the site visibility, that you're at 90 degree, so that your neck doesn't have to turn too much. Otherwise, you lose a little bit of that turn and movement on your neck. Because right now, the driveway, if we were to continue with the same angle, you will be actually going almost in an angle that in favor of going against traffic, that instead of being at 90 or the other way around.
When exiting.
Right, when exiting. Remember, this is when exiting.
Oh, no, I'm talking about when entering.
When entering, the problem with entering is that, the preferred angle for that is 90, right? Otherwise, your driveway will get very wide.
The conflict I see is you start at 90, but then the driveway doesn't even match the 90 degree. And it would almost seem kind of easy to simply create that entry to be at the same angle as the actual driveway.
If you do
you know what I mean?
There's a few things when you do that, right? You're actually increasing the width of the drive, which then pedestrians have to cross longer on the other end. So you want to keep it as close as possible to be able to diminish the conflict point. So typically, the 90 degrees was preferred by traffic engineering because of that.
It slows down traffic more. Yeah?
It does. And that's what you want, right? You don't want.
No, I don't want to slow down the traffic any more than it's already slowed down.
You do to a certain
I do for
degree
the
because
safety of the pedestrian, for sure.
Safety is important to you guys and to everybody, right? So we really want to slow them down a little bit, yes.
Yeah, I don't love it. Okay.
Okay, last shot. Seeing no more questions, on this particular question that is before us, public hearing is now open. Seeing no one come forward on this particular item for this public hearing is now closed. Mr. Attorney?
It's in your court now.
Okay.
You can discuss motions, conditions, whatever you'd like.
All right. We have conditions that have already been proffered by staff, right?
Yeah, you have the list of conditions that are in the resolution that should match the staff analysis. You're up to you to alter those as you see fit, remove, add, et cetera.
Jeremy, could you talk more about the issue with the sign? Because I don't understand where we're going with that.
So any sign has to be under a separate signage permit,
A separate sign?
separate sign permit, yeah.
Okay.
So that includes building, anything mounted on the building, anything mounted.
But is that going to have to come as a variance because a monument sign isn't allowed there?
I don't believe it would be, if it is forbidden by code, I don't think they can get one by variance.
The
Like,
sign,
that's
the
not
sign
that's
was
not
in
a
the
variance.
image. Do you view that as a monument sign?
I actually need to double check the rendered version of the final ordinance to make sure to see.
So you can't vary a use that's prohibited. So Jeremy's correct, but I believe, didn't we just change our code to permit monument signs?
We did, although a provision for buildings meeting a certain setback.
Okay.
That's why I want to
Alright,
make sure
so
we're looking
the
at
answer to the
latest
question
version.
is that the signage for the building is under separate permit, is not subject to this application and before you tonight.
Whether there is their main informational sign in terms of the name of the project at that location, or it's an address and an entrance sign, there's going to be likely to be approved some sign at that corner adjacent to the
I mean, at
entrance.
ground level?
At ground level, yes.
Okay, then something you guys can work out.
Are you very clear and comfortable with the premise that the lighting that shines on the outdoor courts will not obstruct driving into the
So
village?
if I would suggest something that's design related, to say that they use full cutoff fixtures, which would ensure that. That could be something that I believe is something they could execute realistically. And basically what that means is there's minimal light spill from those types of fixtures.
I can imagine that.
That's what we
if
do
that-
at Village Green. And
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a nuisance if it wasn't.
Yeah, or if we want to be, what I would recommend is not to say, use this type of fixture, but just to say, make a condition that the light shouldn't spill off property, and particularly Crandon Boulevard.
Okay, you make that, Frank?
I think
like
that would be a good idea. I'd suggest that.
I'm good with that.
The consensus of council?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I hope so. That the lighting be designed in such a way that it not spill onto Crandon Boulevard, particularly the paddle court lighting.
Crandon or Harbor?
Crandon and Harbor Plaza.
When they went for a permit, would that be a case?
Yeah, so what I'll ask for is that they provide a photometric analysis. It's something I know how to
For a
review.
permit.
Yeah, we can review it.
So typically, you would set a standard though, so it can't spill over into, I guess we probably have a standard in our code. If we don't, do you have a particular standard?
Yeah, I think you could limit it to like
1 foot candle,
one
whatever it would be.
0.5 foot candles or something like that. That is a very minimum amount of light that,
Make sure that the applicant is okay with that?
yeah. Is that,
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
is the, I don't know, maybe the architects can comment.
Yeah.
So I think that I just want to comply to whatever we're agreeing to, and so I'm a little nervous about how to answer it, because I don't know what that 25 really means, right? So I think we got to do the photometric study. And then, Jeremy, is there a standard in the photometric study? Is there like a number or certain level?
There's levels based on, like, one of the standard in this is like the LEED, the Green Building Council, that encourages minimizing light spill. And I believe their like standard that's like for rural is like 0.1 that's allowed for spillover. I think, if Harbor Plaza has a little bit of light over there, it's not going to be a problem. They have their own site lighting. If we have a little bit of spill that's not glare, I'm talking about like, their porch light is also going to light up the sidewalk. That's not a bad thing. So I'd say for purposes here, if we want to set a standard, I'd say 0.5 foot candles.
I'm sorry, what are you saying? 0.5?
0.5 foot candles.
foot
It's a
candle.
standard of measurement for light fixtures.
We'd be okay with that.
My point isn't really primarily spill, it's incoming cars.
But I think this standard will handle that. Like, if they're only getting 0.5 at the property line, you're certainly not getting glare into Crandon. So I think we solve it with that standard.
I have one last question.
Yes.
I know everyone wants to go home. My ever-present concern about maintenance of murals. Because the worst mural is the faded one on the side of Golden Hog, which was pretty at one point if you like that style of art. But now it looks like a faded tattoo, and there's nothing we can do about it. And that is, as I express at every meeting, that's a concern of mine. So is there some way we can put a condition of some kind of maintenance?
Absolutely. I think there's two approaches. One is the materials they select at the beginning, you know, if it's a durable material rather than what I presume was like house paint versus, and then we can definitely condition it with that it be maintained to a high standard over the long term.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can modify the existing condition that we have in there, that the mural be reviewed by and approved by manager or designee to include the maintenance and upkeep. I think we can probably capture that.
Okay.
Consensus of council.
Call the question.
Okay.
Chad, did you get that one? Sorry, so this is a modification of our existing condition regarding the approval of the mural to ensure that it be maintained to a high standard and not fade over time. Yeah, which will be part of material selection and as well as enforcement over the long term.
Maybe last question is, I think I know the answer. Is there one type of plexiglass, or is there a standard that's less reverberative?
I wouldn't know, sorry.
It was held firmly in place.
Yeah. I mean, what I can tell you is I'm confident this is not going to cause a noise complaint anywhere in the residential areas. Might it be a little noisy in Harbor Plaza? I'm less confident about that. But I don't, you know, it's a commercial use adjacent to commercial use, so it's fairly
Okay.
compatible.
Call the question.
Yep.
I miss Stefano's, but I'm ready to vote.
All those in,
Or how about the carreta?
Carreta, Beach House.
Beach house, all right.
all those in favor as amended, on the resolution as amended?
Aye.
Opposed?
And by the way,
Motion carries.
there's a lot of writing on this because nobody here believes that you can get things done in 5 years. So
Thank you, guys.
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll push. Temporary use.
Thank you. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Oh, I was going to do that on my own, but.
Oh, I'm going. I don't know if anyone else. wants.
Temporary, yeah, we won't have a quorum. Temporary, 5 minutes for a biological break.
I never got to say that I thought the building, I never got to say that I thought the building was lovely, which I do.
But it's only temporary. It's a direct thing. It's, I mean, temporary. This building makes no sense for a property like that.
Who's gonna be able to afford to rent it? They're not gonna be able to keep the property with that little.
Of course not.
Madam Clerk. Next item.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, revising the schedule of fees for use of the village's community center and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Thank you.
Item is before us. Discussion. You want to make some introductory remarks?
Sure, just short presentation. The goal of this resolution is to get back to our original target when we opened the community center, was to have the community center funded 70% by fees and 30% by ad valorem, the general taxpayers. In the many years of not raising fees, we've fallen behind that goal, and this gets us closer to getting back to that 70%. If it feels like we just did this, similar resolution, yes, we did it in 2023. At that time, we left the senior rate the same. There was no increase to the seniors. Here we are 2 years later, amending the schedule to increase again. I almost want to get us accustomed to doing so, because the longer you fall behind raising fees, you fall behind your target goals. So we all want to get us accustomed to doing this every 2 to 3 years as we look at the cost to run the center and what we're actually collecting in fees. And then lastly, I want to mention
Which one of you has a better three-point shot? All right.
Last, I want to mention, if this causes any financial hardship to anyone where they cannot become a member of the community center, Todd and his team have a program if they demonstrate a financial hardship to allow them to obviously use the facility and be part of our programming.
Can you give us an example of what that increase is for a membership, for
So
an
on
annual membership?
On the annual is a 10% increase.
Sorry?
On the annual, it's a 10% increase. The other thing what we looked at is there's a significant discount from going from a monthly to an annual. So if you take the monthly times 12, it's a 58% discount if you do the annual. So we want to encourage people to sign up once, pay once, and then take advantage of all our programs so that we obviously have the record of who they are, who's joining our facility, and in times of emergency, we can reach out to more vulnerable populations if necessary.
You automatically go to the cost of living for each year now?
So I think a schedule we think is every 2 to 3 years, not to come every year, but yes, we look at the cost to run the center, where personnel costs go up with CPI every year, janitorial costs, electric costs, et cetera. So the goal is to bring this back.
But you mentioned 3 years in the information here. But is the cost of living gonna go up each year? Or you just wait 3 years to raise the price? No, is it gonna go up in steps of 3 years, or every year cost of living, and the third year?
I think our
take a
plan
look
is to
at it
evaluate
and
it
see where
every
we
other
are?
year. Every other year, we're gonna evaluate it and see what the market conditions are and see what we should come back to you with.
And the criteria is always to try to remain at the 70-30, yeah?
That's sort of I'd let Todd speak on, it's kind of the gold standard in terms of community centers.
Yeah, so when we hired Ken Ballard, when we were designing the community center, we asked what are the top community centers achieve in fee recovery, and it was 70%. So that not only guides us how we operate the facility, it also guides us how we built the facility, so we could achieve that. We were achieving some years 85, 90, 100%. After COVID, we've been, obviously our staffing costs increased, part-time staff, lifeguards, a lot of those costs increased across the county. So we had to compete in that market. So that's why we've fallen behind for the first time, and that's why we support this, increasing the costs.
And it focuses the cost to be borne more by people actually using the community center.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Our user fee.
I am just gonna voice my concern about the age categories. I really think the youth should be 9 and under. And the student, which I don't think we should call student, because I don't think you should have to be a student, should be 10 to 21. I think I had mentioned that to you before. I just think that would be fair. It would continue encouraging more young people to use the facility and to be able to afford it. And just because you're 19 to 25 already, or you've been working for a while, but 21, you may or may not be in college, but you will have been out of high school, may have your first job, and $250 is real money, so.
Or maybe just educate us on where these ages came from. Is it from the same study?
It was, we had a committee at the time.
Yeah.
That evaluated, and they made recommendations, for the age categories. I mean, they're not unique to us. They're pretty similar to what other people have. I mean, one other change that's happening with this is we used to, from under 5, we didn't charge. But with the demographic change that we've experienced, we have a child care provider and an under 5 using our facility, and we're not recovering any fees because more people are using child care providers. And we have areas that are just crowded with people. So we feel that maintaining the child care provider as complimentary, but the child who's in our facility we're staffing and maintaining, there should be some fee recovery for that because it's really changed.
But that should bring in some
Yes.
substantial,
I pulled the numbers on that demographic in our membership, and it's significant. So that will also.
so maybe that would offset changing the.
That's not on the wage scale that's being presented on the page.
That's because it should, use should be 0 to 10. There was a mistake.
Because right now it says
10 to 18.
Yeah, 10 to 18.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
changing.
but not, it doesn't say that on the actual resolution. That chart and the resolution don't
that?
match.
All right, let's make sure that,
Yeah,
I don't know if we can fix that.
yeah, we'll make that modification on the
I'm sorry,
resolution.
where's the change?
Youth is 0 to
On the
10.
resolution?
Yes.
The resolution has a correct.
It's written correctly in the
figures.
resolution, it's just the diagram that they've shown as the backup has
Yeah.
not been corrected yet. So the resolution's written correctly?
Oh, I don't know, well, it's not, it still doesn't say what I think it should say. It says now youth is 18 or younger.
Utes?
Utes.
I didn't say that. And it says, the student is 25 and under, what really a student would be 18 to,
19
oh,
to
19
25.
to 25.
25?
No,
Sorry,
So there's a couple of edits, and then there's just your motion
my motion.
to
right.
change it.
Well,
Right.
if Nancy wants to change things, I think there's a new category. You have juniors and students and seniors. You should have ancient, 85 plus, and that should be free. Because, they're cutting back on social security. So therefore,
That was gonna be our highest category, but we eliminated it, so.
But
not a good idea. huh?
Jeremy,
I like
why,
it. I like
just
it.
as a question, why can't we do what Ed suggested, just every year increase it by CPI, so we don't have to keep doing this? I mean, just as a policy. Save everybody a lot of time and energy.
But the
Just-
cost of living every year just.
Yeah, just
automatically.
exactly, just every year it goes up by CPI, just,
We can do that. It's just in the past, people ask why we're changing it so often. But if that's something you all want to do, we can certainly do that each year.
just administratively, so you don't have to do what you're doing now. I mean, just,
We would
Lot of-
have to set that in the resolution, authorize that it be increased annually by CPI, because the village, it's unique. The village imposed upon itself a requirement that prior to increasing the fees, a public hearing would be required. But that's self-imposed. If you want to write into the resolution that these fees are going up as presented, plus CPI,
Is it I asked staff, is it a pain to do that? Do our software,
No, it
do
could
it
come up with,
easily, or?
it could come up with unique numbers. Like this year's CPI was 2.2, so that would be
have
an
to be rounded,
interesting number. Maybe
Round it up to the next
we can round it
$1.
off.
Yeah, I was gonna recommend if we do a CPI, round it to the nearest whole dollar, so we don't have those
2.5
change,
or
yeah.
To the nearest
3.
5 or something like that.
Or if it doesn't hit the trigger, then it doesn't until we get to a
I'm,
5.
I'm,
take the
I'm,
subjectivity out
I'm
of it.
open to any, what you guys suggest. I just think it's kind of silly for you just to keep having to
Good
do
idea,
this.
Michael.
Yeah, our intent was to do it every 2 or 3 years based on CPI, but if we want to do it annually,
Just do it once.
I'd be happy to be able to allow Todd to do that.
So
Do we need consensus of the,
are there two change requests?
I'm,
Yes.
So one is a motion to change the ages.
To make it ancient over.
Totally.
I'm sorry,
Jerry
Councilmember
got-
Can we
Stoner,
can we call it old time?
About my motion,
what is the correction
No,
first?
over
I
the
think that
hill.
would help.
Over the hill.
my correction is to
So the
change,
correction that,
Well, there was one correction, which was the visual graph. It doesn't match what's written in the
Exhibit
ordinance.
A?
So
Yes.
the council would like to go with the age category graphic in the staff memorandum?
no.
Just to start, but then you want to change that.
They want us to change the one that says 19.
Councilmember Stoner made a motion to change the age categories. right?
Exhibit A, correct.
Okay, so what exactly, again, are you proposing?
What were they again?
Youth would be 0
youth-
to 25 at that.
What
If I understand correctly.
what is the reason you suggested what you suggested again, so that we can compare?
Why there was a student rate?
Yeah,
That was a direction of the board at the time. So that wasn't a
We're not
staff.
suggesting getting rid of the student rate, she's just suggesting to change the range, right, from 18 to 21, was it? Nancy?
I want to make the youth, 0 to 9. I'm switching over to the actual fee schedule from, so that's, I'm a little flustered here. I wanted to make the youth, a 0 to 9 and under, and make the student 10 to 21.
Why not 25? Yes, why not 25? 'Cause
It's
it's
fine,
already.
25 is fine to me, but I thought others would be happier with 21, which is at least getting you through a few years out of high school
The
or
reason why I'm
college.
suggesting that is because it's 25 now.
I think the status of a student is for an adult. So in other words, if you're not a student, you pay the adult rate, but if you are a student, you pay the student rate. So it would really only cover for 19 or above. I think
That's correct.
that's correct.
What's the adult rate?
An adult, a single person, whatever it would be.
Adult is 3.
3. Adult's the first
Yeah,
item.
I have a problem with a young person who is not a student having to pay the adult rate, $380, as opposed to $275.
And what's the cutoff, Nancy, for you?
So that's why I'm saying that I don't know, we may want to change the names, but what we have now is the youth should be 9 and under.
Not all the,
And
not to 18.
student, which I don't think we should call student, should be 10 to 21.
I think where a youth would be
Well, youth is defined as not adult, right, which is under
under
18
10.
years old.
Youth would be under 10, and then we could do student from 11 to 25.
Right, but when you call it student, then they have to give you proof that they're a
We
student.
we would
We
just,
have to come up with some other name.
Young adult.
young
Yeah,
adult.
young adult, right,
Okay, that's what we'll call it.
So there's no requirement for education.
right.
I agree.
I mean,
How do
people
you
from
come up
11
with
to
9 years old
18 are
for
in
you?
school, so.
What?
Why 9-year-olds?
She said 10.
For
He
youth,
said
or
10.
10?
Oh, because they had a 10 cutoff, so I was just trying to,
We could be a senior.
But it's actually
couple
to
if we live
18,
together.
right?
If
Youth,
we live together, we could be a senior.
right? Today it's till 18?
I got Claire. She's 71.
I don't know what you're asking me.
Well, the youth category I'm looking at goes all the way to 18 today, correct? Which is effectively
Correct, yes.
a non-adult, which is a,
Right.
right? Because
A youth.
Right.
you're
I don't-
considered an adult at 18.
But I
so
wanted
below
it to go to
18, you're youth.
21. I'm
No, no,
proposing.
no, hold on, I'm talking about youth. So youth would be 18 and under, hard stop. And then 18 to 21 or 25 would be then your student.
Hey, Todd,
I don't,
if somebody went to a gym,
no,
how
you're,
much would
no,
they
that's
pay
not what I'm
outside?
saying.
If a kid went to a gym, he's 21, 22.
Maybe we're looking at something
He's
different.
probably spending a couple $100 a month.
How much?
You see how
A couple
youth
$100 a month.
Right.
should be
So you're
0
saying
to
this is
18.
No,
a real
it shouldn't
bargain.
be.
Yeah, it's street
Because
bargain.
here-
Why would it be? Oh, because
We were
it's
just
in here,
looking at
because you're
gym
looking at
prices.
this too.
I'm
In
looking
the
at
back.
this.
And we're talking $200 for the Key Biscayne
Youth.
Fitness was
18 and under.
$100 a month.
LA Fitness.
18 and under.
over $200 a month.
Couple $100
Yeah.
a month?
Yeah,
That's youth.
Yeah, I just don't want
all
it
the way
to
up
be
to,
youth.
And now
75.
students would be
Summer.
18 to
Yeah.
21, you're suggesting.
Nancy, they're saying that a regular gym for these kids to go to is $200 a month. So even at $275, that's a real bargain. That's what you're-
275 a year.
Yeah.
75 for a
And
year.
normally
Oh, yeah.
they charge 200 a month at a private gym.
Yeah.
we're well under market, yes.
But we're not market, we're a
I'm just-
community
We're under,
with a
we're
gym.
way
I
under.
understand.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a market rate.
Right.
It's a community benefit. Yeah.
9-10% of market.
Okay, well,
Whatever. Somebody make a recommendation.
Okay,
Our
let's,
clerk has lost touch with what we're trying
I'm
to
so,
do.
yeah.
I just need some clarification.
Right,
So
I
I'm
don't-
after the resolution, under Exhibit A, the youth, which was 18 and under, you would like to change to 0 to 9 or 0 to 10?
I don't,
Okay, well, you have, okay, I would. No, I think we're gonna go on that to 0 to,
18?
To 18.
I'm confused now, sorry. 0 to, because what's the next
18.
stop? The next level's 275.
Next level.
18 to 25.
Yeah. 0 to 18,
Yeah.
18 to 25.
Yes, 0 to 18
and
and
85.
18 to 25. I guess that's right.
I'm sorry, so you,
17, and
So
then 18.
students should read 18 to 25, not 25 and under.
Just take the word student out. It's just young adult.
Young adult,
Young
right.
adult.
Right.
young adult 18 to 25,
It should be 19.
19
Or
to
17 and
25,
under, one of the two.
and the
Or
youth
17 and under, which
would be
18 under.
18
18 and under.
Right.
18 and under.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
And 18 is over 60.
18
No, it's
and under.
Geriatric, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
it
and
would be
so that
18
we
and
don't
under.
have this discussion again, we go ahead and put in the CPI, right? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
in the reso now?
okay with that.
So,
Yes,
so
yes, sir.
we're gonna add in that it could increase, every year by the, Miami-Dade County CPI. I mean, you'll just,
Round it up to the closest $10 after that.
Rounded to the closest $10?
Because the CPI is going to be an odd number.
That work for you guys?
Works for us.
Consensus of council?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now.
You're not doing ancient, I guess. No.
And we,
Oh, to do old timers, maybe.
I think you should do council members free, but whatever.
That's a whole nother.
Ooh.
Mayor.
there also needs to be a public hearing.
All right, public hearing is now open.
Hearing that no one is saying.
Miranda, you're not coming forward, are you? All right. Public hearing now closed.
Looks like you're getting ready. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, 9C, and
The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending the maximum rate for the stormwater utility fee relating to the stormwater management system, providing for authority, purpose, and definitions, establishing a public hearing to consider imposition of the maximum rate for the stormwater utility fee and notice thereof, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective
right way.
date.
Move.
Second.
move
Thank you.
second. All right.
All right, so this is the authorization to increase the maximum allowable rate. I wanted to add some slides in the presentation of why we are doing this. This doesn't in fact raise rates on next year's tax bills and non-ad valorem assessment. It just demonstrates the capacity to be able to borrow the $60 million from the Florida Department of Environmental Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. The reason we want to do that is because that is the cheapest source of money for the resiliency project to address the stormwaters and roadways. They have low interest rates. We're talking sub 2% construction loans. They have flexible disbursement schedules and favorable repayment terms where payments are due at the end of construction. In terms of the current financials of the stormwater fund, if we increase the rates with these maximum allowable rates, we demonstrate the stormwater utility fees would have a maximum capacity to collect $7 million. When we subtract the personnel cost, the future operations and maintenance cost on our existing system, plus operations and maintenance system on the design of the infrastructure improvements, and we have existing debt service from the 2011 stormwater improvement projects, our net revenue would be $4.8 million. Then we add in the debt service from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. This would be planning and design and the construction loan, and that's where we demonstrate 115% coverage ratio, which is what the state wants to be. We need to demonstrate to the state that we have the capacity to be able to borrow. The last slide here shows the impact on each type of household. So if you remember, when we set the stormwater utility rates, unlike the tax rates, this is based on 14% of the fee is based on a base fee that everyone pays into based on
Trips.
trip generation, and then the other 86% is based on the impervious surface area.
Percolation.
So here's examples in single family small, medium, and large, and multifamily, small, medium, large, of what the current fee is, and what, if we went up to the maximum capacity, what that fee would look like. I want to keep in mind in looking at this chart, I know we're all familiar with the living area of our homes, but when you look at the square footage, remember that includes not just the living area of your home, but it also includes sidewalks, anything paved that's impervious. So if you live in a 2,000 square foot home, you might actually have 4,500 of impervious area when you're looking at what a median fee would be.
Okay, so we're not increasing rates. We are just setting the target so that if we go through with these numbers, et cetera, and if we decide to do it strictly using utility fees and not other GO bond or any other way, that it tells the people in Tallahassee that approve this that we have the capacity to to pay this kind of line of credit or the loan or whatever you want to call it, and give us the ability to get that if that's what we want to do in the future.
That's correct.
So are we borrowing any money?
Have we?
Are we going to?
Not because of this.
No, I mean,
Not on this item by itself. There's many decisions that are going to have to take
I
place.
thought this was because we wanted to borrow $60 million.
This is demonstrating the capacity to borrow the 60, so that line of credit's available. There's many decisions that have to be made between now and borrowing any of that to determine how much we're going to be borrowing.
So if we borrow $60 million, they just give us a line of credit for $60 million? How long do you have to use it?
So they will only give you $20 million per year. That's their limit on what they'll fund per year in that loan,
That's just for us or for everybody?
for everybody.
So only 20 million is available for the whole state?
$20 million per borrower per year. So if we
per
get approved for 60, we can't get 60 all at once. It would be at fastest in the 3-year period, 2020-20.
And this will give us the capacity to borrow 60?
Correct.
Thank you.
I also wanted to point out this tab was updated, and a hard copy is in front of you for this item.
And by the way, you said 2%, but I remember talking to those people, this is below 1%.
So based on the communities, they range the fee anywhere from 0 to 2. Communities that demonstrate more financial need, they sometimes get closer to 1. I anticipate Key Biscayne will be a little higher. It'd also be the interest rate they'll set at.
That's not what we heard though, right? If you recall, when we were meeting with those folks?
I recall as you remember it.
Well, what we heard is that it's based on a certain calculation based on the current prime rate. So they go through a bunch of calculations, and so it's all based on what the going interest rate is at the time.
Okay, but it could be under 1% if.
Could be.
Okay.
But then, yes, it could be, but it's discounted based at the time. And so let's say, for instance, it may even happen at different times. We say we do choose to do $10 million a year. Our first loan may be at one amount, and if the going interest rate is a different amount the next year, if we went after another loan, that could be at another rate.
Is it a floating rate or a fixed?
It's all based on their calculations.
Yeah, but then it reset it every year.
No.
No, it's fixed. Once it's set, it's fixed.
Yeah, the loan you take out is fixed.
That's what I'm asking.
If we were to take a second loan out, it would be based on that the rate at that time. Correct.
I thought it was 2%. You're saying it's less.
It could be under 2 is what we heard.
They mentioned it was about 1.9 when we were up there, and that was February, March, I think.
20-year amortization
Yes, 20 year on the construction loan, 10 on the planning and designs, yeah.
level,
20-year.
level payment for
Yeah.
self-amortizing.
And there's a standstill period on debt service,
It's
right?
like a mini perm.
End of construction.
End of construction, correct.
So Jeremy, just to reiterate, so a small single-family home, the first slide, is that the payment, though 13,200 would be the max payment, assuming you borrowed the entire 60 million?
Correct.
I also just want to clarify the slide because it's attempting to educate the resident on how much it could cost them annually. But this is impervious area, and the majority of our residents don't know how much impervious area they're responsible for. So can you translate that into potentially square footage of the actual home, more or less?
So it's different on the single-family side and the multifamily side. So let's talk about single-family side. It's bird's eye view, looking down at your house.
Yep.
Looking to anything that's not grass area, green area is impervious. We're talking pavers, your house, your pool, your deck, driveways, et cetera. Then on the multifamily side, what our surveyors did is they look at the whole, let's say, condo development, then they apportion the impervious areas based on your square footage of your unit over the total building. So if you live in a multifamily condo and your unit's 1,000 square foot, you might actually get a smaller number when you look at depending on the amenities your building has, if there's a tennis court, if there's parking, paved parking, et cetera.
Okay.
Padel courts.
I'll give you something like that, Oscar. The standard 75, 100-foot lot with the .47 FAR based on the bonuses gives you 3,525 square feet.
Additional.
Plus all
your-
the other areas. So they're all going to be at least in the 4,500 square feet, but they will be less than the 6,000 because there's a limit, I think, of .65, so they won't get anywhere to that number. Mackles that are 1,200, 1,500 square feet, they'll be in these small ones.
They'll be in the small.
So, and then obviously anything bigger than that.
But this is only $60 million.
Yeah.
Right, so the challenge, the concern I have here is when we start to scale this from a project standpoint, that the way in which we're effectively taxing through using stormwater versus ad valorem, we had this conversation, right? We could be up to substantial amount of money for some of these homes if we decide to move forward with a $200 or $300 million project, right? So this is
Over a long period.
over a long period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, these are going to be very large numbers, could be higher than people's property taxes.
But Mike, we don't know we're going to get this, and we compete with everybody else in the state who's trying to get this money. And so we want to get this money because it's low interest, but we don't know. Suppose we get this, but doesn't mean we'll get more money going forward.
No, agreed.
We might not get this, so we really don't know. You can't base everything on these interest rates for the whole project, for
No,
everything.
Ed, what I was trying to point out was that this is that we need to be looking. This is probably not the right time, but I was going to suggest that the mayor form an ad hoc finance committee to start looking at the long-term cash flow issues of the village, okay? Because we have some substantial financial challenges moving forward, and we get caught in the weeds, okay, a lot, but we should be looking at the forest down long-term, because if we're going to build some of these larger projects that we're discussing, the finances need to be really thought through, especially from a cash flow analysis standpoint. I just don't think you have the capacity at your current situation to be doing this, and the community would benefit substantially if we bring in some other people, just like we're doing with other committees. That would just be my recommendation.
Okay. For another day?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
On the resolution, you have a question?
What is the, what are the changes that are in this new one that we got? Because I didn't name it.
There are numbers.
It's what he presented on the slides. It's the numbers he presented on the
So
slides.
exhibit B and C, when they talk about what the maximum collection of the stormwater rates will be, there's a paragraph in there what the total is at the maximum. The current numbers are correct?
But we're also going to have to send out announcements to every resident.
So as part of that agenda packet, I think it's Exhibit C is a sample of the letter that each property owner is going to receive in the next 30 days, which is going to have exactly that information about what the maximum is based on their particular parcel. Since every parcel has unique characteristics, we have to send that notice to every.
And we've got the official hearing in August.
And we have another hearing. This is to set the hearing, and at the August meeting is when the hearing date takes place.
Benjamin, we talked about the opportunity to give kind of a clarification of what that might actually cost that resident and to add it to those notices. Did you have a chance to look into that?
So on that notice, it'll have for their
particular property.
what the current is and what the maximum is, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
What's the maximum could be?
What a maximum could be. Right. All right.
Okay, 9C.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Let's go to, you want to have a quick discussion about the millage cap so we can put that to bed and then I don't know how much you all want to go through in terms of the overall budget look. You want to take a first crack at it, just a look through it. But the one thing that we have to do tonight is the cap, which you understand that we always set it a little bit higher, and it's not a big deal. It's not our final.
May I introduce a quick thought? There was a intent to submit on behalf of the Trap, Neuter, and Return Program an ask, and they didn't get it in, and I said that I would speak to it. They have been running this program for a number of years. We've always supported it. I think the number last year was $18,000. They asked, I believe, for $15,000 and cite two statistics of what they've been able to accomplish. And I said that I would introduce the ask. So I've now done so.
All right.
And I believe the ask is in. I don't know whether you want to know offhand how much we've recommended funding for, but we have taken that in consideration. It's part of the larger community programs and events.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know offhand, or can we just get that to Councilmember Kaplan? Okay.
Thank you.
In our packet was the different millage numbers.
Mayor, you want us to run through this relatively quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, so unless there are any other questions before we start, but I know we're short of time, so we'll just make sure we hit the key slides going through, but I also want to make sure that Benjamin sets the conditions as we go through. So jump to the next slide. And, the mayor mentioned before that our history has been over the last 4 to 5 years is to, not go crazy high in the millage cap, but give us enough flexibility that over the summer, we can take the guidance from the council, we can get some feedback from the community. We have now set a regular meeting every second Tuesday of August where we have a community meeting for the budget to get feedback from the community. We're not being tone dead with this recommendation. We are taking consideration, the current political, the current economic and social issues that are going on in society in the interest of making sure that we tax people properly. So our recommendation to go to the rate that we're going to recommend is not taken lightly, but it's taken that gives us enough flexibility to make decisions over the summer. And as we have shown over the last 4 or 5 years, that we always come in at or below our current millage. So that's our intent. Our job is, after taking your guidance, is to go back, refine this, come back with the best recommendations in September. So why don't you take us through, hit the high tops, and then when we get to the decision, let's make sure they have an opportunity to talk through that.
Yeah, I wanted to jump to this slide here only because at about 5:30 p.m. this afternoon, we got good news. The property appraiser revised their June 1st number and provided July 1st number. So it didn't make it into this presentation, but the new preliminary taxable value is now 11.7 billion. So instead of a 5.6% increase, it is a 6.5% increase from the prior year in terms of how much more ad valorem.
And who was closest to that number?
I believe it was Mayor Rasco wins the prize.
I don't know. I'm going to go back and think that 6.5 was my number.
6.8? No, you were 7.5. No,
I was 7.2. You are right. That's correct.
Be careful.
Remember now.
I do.
Once he said it, I do remember.
Yeah, I
it.
got that.
I do remember.
So in terms of dollars, what does that mean for the village? That's about $307,000 more of ad valorem at the existing millage rate. So that's kind of the flexibility that the manager discussed about. Let us refine some of the revenue projections, expenditure projections. That's already another $300,000 that we have built in here. So when we get to the decision-making slide about what projects we can include at certain millage rates, well, now we have a little more flexibility just on that news today. So that's pretty good news I wanted to share.
You have a thing of 2.6877 without CapEx. That's for everything for your $42 million budget, I think, without the CapEx. Is that right?
Where are you?
Or not?
He's on slide 21.
You call your baseline?
millage.
He's getting there. Right there.
Okay. Yeah, so as we always run through you, this is the baseline millage considering no capital projects, so
That's
just.
baseline based on the 11.6 billion thing, okay,
Correct.
fine. So then you have a CapEx of another 4.78 million, right?
Yeah, jumping to this slide
Well,
of,
I say 4.78 million because you have $850,000 for a project manager in there, which I don't know if we're gonna go for that or not, but to take that number, and then you have an additional, basically at this point in time, you wanna reduce your reserve by $6 million. So if you took the 6 million, paid your 4.7 million or 5 million for your CapEx, you still have $1 million more in reserve you wanna reduce. So you don't have to, so you basically could come in with a millage rate of your 2.687 or 2.65, couldn't you? And so, and
what would you do the following year?
Sorry, what?
What would you do the following year?
The following year, you have to basically go the following year and have the taxes accordingly. And basically, we always over budget, that's why we have so much more money in the reserve. So I'm sure by the time we go through the things, not that you probably might not reduce it, but if you did, you probably have a lot of fat in the $42 million.
Yeah, I think the challenge in that plan is taking 6 million from reserves and lowering the millage rate.
Well, you basically say you're going, in your presentation, you're saying you're going down to 17 million as your object from the 23 million you expect to have now. So you have an extra $6 million in reserve. So I'm saying, why are you going to raise taxes? You can actually lower the taxes to 2.6 something, excuse me, and use part of that reserve and still have more money in reserve. Instead of going to 17, you still have 18 million in reserves.
That is a technique, and if that's what the council would like us to do, we can definitely look at that. Also, earlier this evening, and we'll see come August 19th, we just did commit to $950,000 as well, so.
No, you
that would
committed
also-
to first reading for $950,000.
No, that's what I said. I know we committed initially, but it'll have to be decided on August 19th.
But
That's what I said.
what's the 850 and the thing there you have? Is that for Mike Uda? In the capital budget, you have 850 for the RFA one.
Can we, for the entire group, can Benjamin walk through this? You're, I think, ahead of the rest of the council. Would you mind if let Benjamin walk through this? I know what you're saying, and I'm willing to have that conversation, but I'm not sure everyone is caught up to you there.
Okay.
Council member.
I mean, we had a discussion earlier about the Delta as well. It's just a different way to look at it. So yeah, if you would walk us through, that'd be great.
So this is really the heart, I think, the discussion for tonight, the proposed new initiative slide. So we start at that baseline millage of 2.6877, which is obviously less than our current millage. Then here's the list of capital projects. The equal sign shows if we add all the way through to the contributor to key athletic fields and designs, we could do that without adjusting our millage rate at all. The manager's recommendation is for a 3.3% increase, which gets you all the way down to the red line. If that's where we decide tonight, we could set the max there and obviously come back and maybe get those projects included with whether it's the money we already got today from the property appraiser or there's other refinements and revenue projections that we get more accurate as the summer goes on.
Benjamin, just to interrupt, none of this includes any there's no maintenance line item here for replacement of assets. You've got them listed as capital, but we have no maintenance line item for any of the fixed assets. Like, for example, we're going to replace the roof. You've got it listed in capital items. Why don't we have an operating number for maintenance in the budget?
In the public works budget, the operational budget, we do have maintenance and repairs on the community center facility, Village Hall, in this building as well.
But we don't have replacement costs for.
But we don't have replacement costs. These are just maintenance and repair,
I think
not
what you're
replacement.
asking, so, we look at it as, we do have what he's saying, maintenance and minor repair
Right.
inside the public works. And
I'm
I think
looking
what
at
you're asking for is rehab, renovation.
Correct.
And possible replacement of existing assets.
And to
cover our backlog. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
which is about
Right.
21
Which is not an insignificant amount of money. That's
Right.
but
But philosophically, when you put on a new roof, it's for the people for the next 30 years that are going to benefit from the new roof. So therefore, you borrow the money or you pay for it as you go. But people now basically are using a roof that's on there.
correct.
It's a
Correct. But we're sort of
philosophical question, really.
yeah, but it's like special assessing every time you.
Well, it's basically who benefits from the use.
Well, I think there was an idea, right? An idea that
birthed from this type of conversation that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I.
Fund?
Yeah, I mean, we can do it with reserves. We could allocate reserves in that fashion. We have $23 million of reserves we could allocate.
Could
Part
you
of that.
walk us through a possible solution to this never-ending story of not being able to budget beyond the year that we're in budgeting to really maintain our assets moving forward and to take care of some of the backlog?
So there's the philosophical question of who pays, whether we plan for it and we know it's coming 10 years
Do we
from
set a
now and we
reserve?
charge a little bit each year to pay for it. To Councilmember London's point, then you have people now paying for a future benefit. So it's a more philosophical of how, if we want to go down that line and we look at all the fixed asset costs, we have a schedule of when they need to be repaired, we could start a funding mechanism to start doing that, whether it's through the millage now, whether we kickstart it with our reserves to say, let's stick some money there, because we know kickstarting the program obviously takes a significant amount of capital. It's an option as well.
And how would does that work similar to an HOA, for example, where they do a reserve study to see the life expectancy of any particular asset and they start reserving towards that?
Yeah, we would do the study on our facilities, exactly the useful life of it and when we anticipate
The
the
other option
major.
is you get assessed when it breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
We already do that, or
yes.
we're already supposed to do that for police and fire. For vehicles, right?
But we're not.
Well, we're supposed to be doing it.
Well,
We're just replacing them.
we're just replacing when we need
Doesn't
to.
make sense to do
I
this.
mean, that the rule that's in place is that we're supposed to be doing this as we go, as the vehicles mileage out or whatever, we're supposed to be replacing. We haven't been doing that, so.
No, that's a different situation. That's a policy on our fleet on when it's time to replace. What we're talking about
Is
is
funding it.
we.
Yeah, but that's still a question of funding it, right? Isn't that what you're talking about?
Right, but we're talking for all assets.
Yeah, for all assets.
So create a reserve.
Right, I understand.
So, and I'm not sure we want to, when we call it reserve, we call it what we want, but I think in Councilmember Brackman, I think you and I spoke about this.
Yes.
We have, by example, and it probably wouldn't be the exact same thing, the land trust ordinance that we have. We could possibly back into an estimated number that we could put away as a maintenance and repair fund by ordinance, and obviously Chad's going to tell me yes or no whether we can do this. And then we have certain stipulations based on, again, it has to be current assets. It can't be new assets. It would have to be current assets on how we would be able to amortize it over a certain period of time. So we could back into that number, and I don't know, let's just say it comes to 1% of our, we'll have to figure it out. 1% of our annual budget. So if that's something the council could do, I think we're always looking for maintenance and repair money. I don't know whether from a legal perspective we could do that, Chad, but I know we had that conversation with Councilmember Bracken.
Ed, you're
earlier
giving
this
me the stink eye. I'm just wondering why.
What?
You're giving me the stink eye. I'm just wondering why.
Philosophically, I don't understand why you would want to do it, really.
just-
Because basically.
I'm looking at this from a
the people
conservative
who
standpoint of
benefit-
running a business for years. I mean,
Well, no, but this is a different kind of business.
Okay.
This is a totally different kind of business. I agree with the homeowners, all that kind of stuff, but because of our situation and our ability to tax, which other people don't have.
Right.
And it's a completely different situation. I
Guess
mean,
we should-
that's why you
Yeah,
borrow
okay.
money.
Are we allowed
You
to
get
have this?
capital.
Are we allowed to have this conversation outside of the dais or not? Is it a
don't-
workshop?
don't-
Financial workshop, maybe.
don't
we should
talk-
say. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I don't think it was stink eye. I think it's just how ancient people look.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Benjamin. Go ahead, please.
10% plus CPI.
I'm in agreement. But I see both
Uh,
sides.
Let's keep going through the presentation, and we should bring that discussion back at some point in a regular meeting.
So this slide is really the heart of the decision-making to set the maximum. If there's other questions through the slides, we're happy to answer any of them at this time.
I think for the benefits, we have two new council members.
Sure.
Just to walk through that, this is just setting the ceiling, right? So as the process goes, as the manager mentioned, through the budget process, you guys can continue to reduce that if you would like.
But we can't increase
And you
it.
could give us
can't
guidance right
increase
now to work through it as we received it from Councilmember London to consider what we can use out of the reserve to fund capital projects.
Well, you say you have $7 million, you want to reduce it from 23 to 17, $6 million you have there. That's in your presentation.
Well, since Councilmember London found some extra money, I would just like to say, and it's because it's one of our opportunities to get closer to the district, I didn't see anything in there for the school. I'd like to, something to come back for the school, especially now that we've had the workshop and we have a better idea of what that might look like.
Okay, so why don't we, when you and I get a chance, maybe we can sit down and kind of frame that, what it is we want, we can kind of cost it out, and we can put that in. We do have the 35,000 for the verifier, we've got the 38,000 that's aligned with EAB.
That's right.
But it sounds what you're looking for is some sort of support where we can kind of continue on with what we're doing right now with engaging the middle school.
100%.
Okay.
Thanks for finding that money.
One area, and whether it's this budget year or next or somewhere in between, I continue to want to harp on the artificial intelligence issue and whether or not the village needs to have an artificial intelligence person that would help us, whether it be in police or in fire or in all our different departments, especially maybe procurement, where this person could be our guiding light to get us to be more efficient by using AI and involving it more and more. I know that some of you already are using it for different things, but someone like the similar to the CRO position, that you would have someone that would understand the role of drones in police work, for example, okay, or have the the ability to use AI for what we were just talking about in terms of setting aside the money for maintenance or keeping track of our keeping better track of our different buildings. I would like to see us start working towards that, whether it's in this budget year or the next. I think that we have to figure out how to make good use of that tool that is out there, which by all accounts in the next 3 to 5 years is supposedly, and let's say it's not 3 to 5, it's maybe a little bit longer, but it's going to be revolutionizing everything that we do.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you suggesting we consider a CAIO or CHOW? I just want to know. I started doing the acronym in my head there.
Yes. I am suggesting that we need to move towards that. If each department can't, do something on their own, that they might need this person. Well, yeah, I think that we should seriously consider that.
Interesting concept. And it's something. Let us weigh that, and whether it's a full-time person, part-time person, professional services person. Let us weigh that and see.
Yeah, or we hire a vendor that is doing that in other cities or something. I don't know exactly
what kind of potential benefits we could get out of it.
I think that would be part of the requirement of. We have to see a return on investment.
I'm just thinking, no, but
I think, for example,
I think there's a lot.
You want procurement of an engineering company. You would think that with AI we could do that a lot faster than what it takes us to do it.
I'm sure there's a lot of other uses. I don't see that as one of them, though, really. But to be other uses.
You're the one who always wants everything in a hurry.
Mayor, I could give you one
government.
example. There are some cities that are implementing AI through the building department and with software, which are now reviewing plans just by running
That
it
would
through.
make sense.
And there are a couple companies in Florida, and I think maybe the University of Florida might have something also, but that has been rolling out through several cities here in Dade County.
Yeah, that would make sense in the building department, Joe. Building department.
Yeah.
But they need a whole other system.
Yeah. By the way,
Now to read the plans
there
electronically, and then so the AI can do it. So
there are many municipalities that are using drones, for example,
we have two of them.
to help patrol, to do do different things. So that's another example.
We have two drones, Jim. We own two.
Right? Do we have people that know how to operate them?
I called John Govert. I mean, I don't know if he's the one that bought them.
We do, well, our code officers use them. Yep. We have them whenever we, in advance of a storm, we'll survey our own facilities so that we have a before and hopefully not an afterwards, but definitely a before.
All right, let's keep going.
So here is the manager's recommendation for that cap, our 25 actual of 2.9794, our proposed millage cap, it's the maximum.
Well, that would change based on the 5.6 to 6.5, correct?
Correct. And the difference, I do want to, maybe we'll come back to this, but I do want to fast forward to something the manager I've been working diligently on with all the discussion on property tax reform and looking at diversifying our revenue sources. So one of the items we already brought forward tonight was the community center membership fee. And here's a long list of items we've been working on where you have to increase fees so you're not so reliant on ad valorem taxes. Right now, and it seems like in the recent history, we've always been around 72% of our entire revenues is ad valorem. So in order to reduce that reliance, we've looked at other revenue sources. These are items we're working on, and the next slide is ones that we're still spitting ideas, workshopping to see if that are feasible for Key Biscayne or not. So there's no questions on that. Do we go back to the maximum millage slide?
And also the other ones that we're considering, just so they.
So these are ones that we're working on. These are other ones we're still researching and considering. I know fees are sometimes a more difficult discussion and conversation to have, but they have an impact later on when we discuss millage rates.
Councilman Bracken.
The last item there is
the one
the
we were speaking about.
the maintenance, repair, rehab, renovation, and replacement fund, creating that dedicated account.
Benjamin, we talked about impact fees for roads, I mean, road repair, I know that was something Jeremy was looking at. Jeremy, you remember that conversation?
Yes.
Where do we go with that?
We're still looking. Sorry, we're still looking into it, but we're expecting to bring something back at the next meeting.
But let's talk about what an impact fee is.
Yeah.
An impact fee is from a larger development than what was existing previously that's going to have an impact on roads, fire, police, school, parks. We've really only had one recently, which was the Silver Sands, and we received pretty substantial impact fee. Now, granted, it was just for parks because that's the only one we have. So I think what you were talking about before is, do we charge for people building new houses? And that's more through code, and Jeremy, you probably know that better than I. Holding people accountable if they break things is more a code compliance.
What Dade County does, they charge you the difference. They give you credit, like building a 4,000-foot house, and you had a 2,000-foot house there before, you pay the impact fee on the extra 2,000 feet.
Right.
Not on that.
It's just the larger
That's what
size.
Steve is saying what the increase in the impact is,
Right.
not the total thing.
Right, well, and I was looking to try to do something like that, because I just think about how many cement trucks are gonna roll down through to put this new project up, right? They're gonna be tearing the crap out of the streets.
Yeah, but impact fees are not allowed to be used for repair. It's only for expansion of capacity. So it could be very useful for parks here. For roads and mobility, you might have some ability. I think, if I recall in the discussion, when we were talking, it kind of came back around that it might be more of a bond or some other type of security that's being placed on development to address the trucks ripping up the roads and stuff.
Impact fees are heavily regulated by the legislature, right?
Correct.
So what are the limits of what we could do if we wanted to?
Well, what you do is you hire a consultant who establishes a level of service for the different public facilities that Steve was mentioning, parks, roads, police, fire. There might be another one, schools, but that's set by the county,
Right.
not here. And the consultant comes up with the highest legally defensible fee that you can charge. And as Councilmember London said, it is charged on new development, on the difference between the existing development and the larger impact. So it's that delta. And then it's paid at the time of building permit, and it's to be used for capital facility improvements, like expansions, not improvements, expansions. So the best example maybe might be in one of our parks, if we have one swing set, maybe now we need two because of the new residents are coming, so we are able to use those funds to buy the second swing set.
Chad, if you're increasing the size of the house, theoretically, you're increasing the exposure to fire. So couldn't you use that to offset the cost of providing new fire trucks or additional fire trucks? Also, from a policing standpoint, there's
So
potentially more
there are-
residents.
Yes, so there are ways to say that you need to use it to acquire another vehicle or fire truck to increase capacity to serve these new residents.
Or update the current ones?
So, well, we don't currently have a impact fee for, or you mean update the current?
The current fire, I mean, to
truck?
improve the trucks?
You could update the truck if it can be demonstrated that update's gonna help to provide further capacity. Like, for example, if you added another machine that now, to the truck that can now be used to, like, a life safety type of equipment. But those are the types of things that the consultant will spell out what the uses can be used and what they can't be used.
Do you have an idea what those consultants charge to do something like that?
I know you asked me that last time. I don't, it really varies on the complexity, on how many different fees that you want, as well as our data that we currently have. Because if it takes them a lot of time to take our data to develop the level of service, they may charge more. I want to say it's probably in like the 50,000 range, 75,000 range. I can't imagine it's more, but
We could maybe include that in the budget.
so, well, I think it may be helpful, maybe before the next budget presentation, we can do a little more research on just what those impact fee consultants charge.
And what you can use it for and you
So-
can't, because we want to make
Yeah.
sure that we don't put one in that
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
solve.
look, you could use it to buy new parkland. I mean, because you're showing that you need to deal with the additional new residents, you have to add more capacity of parks. It's all about adding new capacity. And the thing
Or
about,
the use of fields,
well, if you add more fields, if you're building out a new field, the idea is that with impact fees is that the existing residents shouldn't bear the brunt of the impacts of the new residents.
So if you're going from 2,000 to 5,000.
There's an
3,000
impact.
increase, there's
Yes.
going to be increase on fire, there's going to be increase on the fact there's probably more residents in
not
the
necessarily.
space. Why?
The way I don't think that, you can check it out, but I don't think it works that way. I think if you mention a fire truck, if we build a high rise here, you need a new truck to go to the high rise.
No, I think that
Just talking about volume of people in the house, and the house's fit is bigger, so therefore it's more
Maybe on
exposure.
bedrooms, you could do something.
Yeah.
I think that that is exactly how it works. That yes, but I think the harder thing is going to do, what do you use the money for? Because you can't use it for repairs and maintenance, right? It's only for capital expansions.
And so just to put it in scale as well, we may be able to collect a couple $1,000s from it because we don't know what this calculation is. Just realizing, I don't remember the exact number of units they had in Silver Sands. I think it was 55, and we got $7.6 million. So, that's pretty significant. A house from 2,000 to 4,000 square feet, that might be
But that times
$150.
That times 80 houses may.
I'll tell you, historically, in the communities down here, the most expensive fee is usually parks. then roads, and then police and fire is usually the least amount. I mean, just, that's, if you look across the board, that's typically how it is.
We talked about this a lot. I just think there's probably best practices with some other municipalities that we could benchmark against
Sure.
and find out what they do. So Coral Gables or whoever, they probably have done this already, so we could just ask.
Yeah,
them.
Dade County does it.
Dade County has a substantial schedule of impact fees. I think that and you guys may benefit from maybe a mobility fee because you know, dealing with alternative modes of transportation in the village to help with traffic. I think what the mayor said is correct. It's highly regulated by the legislature now, but the consultant's going to prepare a fee that's consistent with that and provide you the highest fee that you can assess.
Thank you.
So how would we do this? We have a list of about 8 of them here. If there's ones that you want us to zero in on, it sounds like impact fees are one of them. I think the maintenance repair fee is another one. Is there anyone else on these items that you want us to bring up to the working level versus just doing initial research on?
The code violation fee seems like something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, a code violation.
I had a bit of a negative reaction to field use fee in a park.
Which fee?
Field use, because it's a park, and it seems inequitable to charge people to use a park use that's already provided for.
This is only for people who are making money off of it, though. People who are giving classes.
These are trainers.
Private training and.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah, that's
what that is.
That's what the intent is for that one, is just for someone who's using it to make money off it.
Yeah, I actually had a discussion earlier about the, what we were just saying, the violations, were we in?
Code
violation.
Code, yeah, that, it's really a discussion we have to have, because having served as a special magistrate for as many years as I did, it would seem to be the philosophy to just to get everyone in there and, you know, slap on the wrist and not really assess any fees, so everyone knows that they really don't have to abide by the code unless they get caught. So I think there's a lot of money, a lot of revenue that's lost that way.
I also think there's a culture of compliance, too, when we let people go. We're kind of breaking that culture of compliance.
There's a culture of non-compliance when you don't charge.
Right.
Right, okay, I want to make sure we're on the same.
Well, the culture of compliance, yeah.
Right.
Right.
No, I think there's a substantial amount of revenue that we're missing out on that.
Well, and not only is it revenue, it's, we call code compliance for a reason, right? And, it takes a number of times for unless there's something egregious, but it takes a number of time for our code officers to get to the violation level.
Right.
Trust me, by the time they get to the violation level, it is a code violation. So I know it's very frustrating to put all that work together, which is they put a lot of time and effort to bring it to the special magistrate, and they say no. Because it probably is about 3 or 4 times by the time they're actually bringing it.
Right, I really didn't mean revenue in terms of profit.
No,
I
it's
meant
coverage
revenue in terms of covering the cost of
covering the cost of
administering
the effort that
program.
we do.
Right,
Yes.
right.
It all adds up.
It's.
And it's 2 things. It's one, it's the cost, but it's also the compliance that we're all trying to achieve.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposed millage cap.
I'll second it.
We're discussing it now.
Yeah, why we use for discussion now?
Open for discussion.
Well, we set it high, it'll stay high for no reason. And all you do is over budget all the time. And this is why you get a bunch of big excess money in reserves.
But even
everywhere else.
Yeah,
And the more money you have, the more money you waste.
Well, I'm going to.
But the original statement, the first statement you started with has not been the case since I've been here.
Did it go down last year?
We've always gone down from the moment from the cap is, so I'm not sure, I'm not.
Insignificant.
But
that is true.
But I'm going to say, we have a lot of
I'm just-
projects, we have a lot of projects that we need to get done.
Yeah.
We have a lot of important projects that we need to get done.
I think the process is a good process, and it has resulted in sharpened pencils and efficiencies that have resulted in solid budgets with, over the recent years, a reduction in the millage that was set at the max. That's happened year after year.
Year after year, it's always set higher than necessary, and you have to add. It's not a large excess. And as a result, when you have large excess, you hire more people and you waste more money.
Well, that's not actually what's happened. What's
No,
happened is
correct.
we've accumulated reserves.
Why? Because we over budget, because we overtax.
No, we fund our capital.
And we've gotten a hell of a lot done.
Yeah, I think we need to use that money to accomplish more.
But in any event, tonight's decision is about setting a max because we can't go up, but we can go down.
Yeah. Right.
And we always go down, so.
Anyone
Oscar,
else?
call the vote.
Any other discussion? Jocelyn, would you call the vote?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Can you just say nay?
Nay.
All right.
We done?
You look at your own money sometime.
Mr. Mayor, there was the budget hearing dates.
Yes. We've been advised that there is going to be a change. Madam Clerk, you want to go through that?
We need to change the first budget hearing date. It's a conflict with the school board having their hearing at the same time. So,
Yeah, we don't have a choice in this thing. The Big Brother has,
Has spoken.
So instead of the Wednesday, it would be the following day.
Give us the dates, because I'm trying to put this.
It was
September 11th.
September
So now it's
10th.
changing to September 11th, Thursday?
Wait, what is it set for? So I know.
Wednesday, September 10th.
Wednesday, September 10th, and
from the
this would
10th
move
to the 11th.
to the following day.
It's the first budget.
This is the first budget hearing.
Any problems with that?
I'm gonna have to zoom on that.
To Zoom?
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna be not here.
Were you here for the 10th?
No, I wasn't gonna. Be.
Oh, okay, so.
Okay. And then the second budget hearing date, there's a conflict as well internally with
my
an
birthday.
event for,
It's my birthday.
Come on,
Eh.
Steve.
No, that wasn't the reason
that
why.
wasn't the reason.
I'm trying. It is my birthday, but I'll do that anyway. But
What's the acronym for your birthday?
So instead of it would be the 29th. Instead of Thursday, September 25th, it would be Monday, September 29th.
Are you good with those? Okay, you guys?
September 29th.
Instead of the September 25th, it
Ready?
would be
What's the
Sep-
difference? Definition of insanity is do the same thing, get the same results, so why bother?
All right.
At what time?
I'm
That's 6
insane.
o'clock?
same time, 6:30.
I'm not sure.
You said the 29th.
Yes, Monday, the 29th.
Cannot say.
Okay.
All right. Consensus of council?
Yeah, wait, is there a chance that these get changed by either the county or the school system, or this is?
They have now posted their schedules, so if they don't change their dates,
Okay.
this does not conflict with their schedule
Okay.
Flexible.
no, my birthday.
and the manager's birthday.
Okay.
Consensus of council?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just make sure, September 11th is the new date?
Yeah, I will send you email updates tomorrow.
We got
For your
9/11 and Steve's birthday. I don't know what to make of that.
DOB.
Mr. Manager, any other business?
I think we're good. I do want you to take a look at the cybersecurity requirements in there. I believe the village is 100%. I'm going to ask you all to take a look at that.
Take the course.
You guys are required to do that as well, so that we can get fully compliant. That is a state statute.
When and how do we do that?
I'll make sure that Alex, he's probably in the back room right now. Why don't we bring him out? He can give a quick little, he's got 30 seconds or less to tell you what he needs to do.
Exactly.
And then we'll get out of here.
Some small country in Indonesia, I was listening on the radio yesterday, was hacked. And all the hospital records were extorted.
Some small country in Indonesia.
I think that's.
And of course, Mr. Mayor, I want to recognize as well our CFO for receiving yet another certificate of achievement. We also have that in the back for financial reporting from the Government
Hey, Ben.
Finance Office. Well done, Benjamin.
Okay. And what's Feeney doing here? We've never seen Feeney here before. Huh?
Okay, he's back. We'll get you some information out on it. I know you guys want to call tonight. I'll have Alex write up a requirement. He'll get you signed up into the program. It takes you about 2 hours.
It's online?
It's an online program. Yes.
Mr. Friedman, is there anything to report?
Yes, I would just like to call for an executive session pursuant to section 286.011 in the Florida statutes. In the case of Miami Fourth Estate, Inc. versus Village of Key Biscayne and Steve Williamson, which is in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida. The purpose of the session will be discussing settlement negotiations and litigation expenses. We will hold this session in the future. The clerk will provide reasonable notice of the date, time of that meeting. So just under Florida law, we're required to announce it ahead of time. We're going to hold it.
Is this on the Tony's thing?
Yes.
Okay. Anything for the good of the order? Who wants to be in the parade with me on Friday?
I'll be there. I'll be with you.
Thank you, Ed.
Still on the fence.
I'll be out of town.
You ready? And you'll
on
get
the
back to
fence,
us.
yeah.
Okay.
Are you gonna walk? Or
We'll do both like
Yeah.
we did last year.
we'll meet at 10 o'clock or just shortly before in Fernwood, and we'll just do what we always do.
Yeah. The clerk has provided us bags.
Yes, I will have
That-
bags organized for you all.
The bags, if you want to decorate your golf cart or any other kind of decoration. And there's some handouts. What is it?
Giveaways, yes.
Giveaways.
Are you showing up with carts already that we can hop on, or we need to show up with our own cart if we come?
I think you usually have one.
Not
Not
this
this
year.
year.
Right now, the only golf carts I know of are your two and the Moki. Are there any other ones?
I won't be here, unfortunately.
Can we borrow your golf cart?
I was just thinking that, but I have
You want to borrow mine? You can borrow mine.
visitors
I gotta get-
that are going to be using
Ed's
it.
offered a golf cart.
I'm not going to be here, but you can borrow mine.
Okay.
So what do we have?
Nancy,
We
you
have
can
two?
borrow Ed's
Well, if I go.
if you decide. Okay.
You have one.
I have a cart, but I want to.
She doesn't want to drive. You need a driver, Nancy. That's what you need. You need a driver.
I got a driver.
I need a driver. Michael drive.
I have a driver.
Okay. Our personal.
Anything else for the good of the order?
I got a driver. My guy can drive.
All right. Happy 4th. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.